Good morning to the Board of Commissioners, our elected officials, county administrator, our legal counsel this morning, our department heads, and citizens of Douglas County. Before I start this meeting, I just wanted to acknowledge any elected officials that's on the line this morning. I believe we had a few, maybe perhaps our state legislators might have hopped on this morning, not sure. But if you are here, I just wanted to acknowledge you and say good morning. With that being said, Board of Commissioners, welcome to the July 19, 2021 virtual joint special call meeting. And it is in our regularly scheduled work session. Clerk, for the purposes of the record this morning, we'll start with the special call meeting. And certainly this special call meeting is called for the special meeting with Chattahoochee Hills to discuss Foxhall the resort application annexation into the City of Chattahoochee Hills. Before I start, I would like to take the time to call roll the Board of Commissioners, and then I'll yield to Mr. Mayor Tom Reed to allow him to call roll from his side as well, the City Council. I'll start with the Board of Commissioners this morning. When I call your name, if you could just respond accordingly to justify and verify that we do have a quorum. This morning, District 1 Commissioner Henry Mitchell III, are you here?
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. District 2 Commissioner and Vice Chairman Kelly Robinson.
Present.
District 3 Commissioner Tarenia Carthen.
Present.
District 4 Commissioner Ann Jones-Guider.
Present.
And Ramona Jackson-Jones, the Chairman, present. Board of Commissioners, we do have a quorum this morning. I would like to yield to you, Mayor Tom Reed, to allow you to verify the presence of your council this morning. You have the floor, Mayor Reed, and you are on mute. You're on mute right now.
We'll start first with our councilperson, Ruby Foster.
Here.
And then Richie Schmidt. Next is Lori Searle. I know she's on.
I'm here.
Okay. Next is Camille Lowe.
Present.
And then Troy Bettis. So we've got 3 of 5. We have a quorum as well.
Thank you so much, Mayor Reed. Board of Commissioners, at your pleasure, certainly I will yield to Attorney Bernard to allow him to frame the discussion, and then he'll move it on to the discussion on to Phil Schaefer. All right, I will yield to you, Attorney Bernard.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I thank Rick Lindsay's counsel for the city. I think I saw Rick earlier. I just want to acknowledge his professionalism in helping us to coordinate this meeting. Rick, are you there?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Thanks, Rick, for all you've done to help us get to this point.
My pleasure. Thank you, Ken.
So Madam Chair, and for the city, for purposes of the record, there was an application by the owners of what we call the Foxhall Resort to annex into the City of Chattahoochee Hills. The county was notified and pursuant to statute requested a meeting as required by the statute, which we are having today by agreement of the parties as to the time and date and setting. And in fact, we've been sharing information back and forth and extended the time frame to have the meeting today and the time period for objection. And so, Rick, did I set that up at least where we are today for this meeting?
You did. Thank you.
Okay. So, Madam Chair and board members and our guests, at this time, Madam Chair, if you would allow, I'd ask Phil Schaefer to sort of highlight our staff, some of our staff concerns about this application, and then he will turn it back to you, Madam Chair, for any board member comments, and then obviously any comments by the city, if that's all right for purposes of our procedure today.
Thank you so much, Attorney Bernard. At this time, Phil Schaefer, you have the floor to engage in discussion regarding this application.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Welcome, Mayor Reed and all of your council members. So over the period of time since we received the annexation application, we've been working with Ken Bernard and staff to put together some thoughts on what we feel are important points that we need to go over. The statutory language when it comes to annexations from outside of the county has some very specific issues that we wanted to raise in terms of points. So in making its decision regarding a cross county line annexation, the county governing authority is able to consider the following factors under the statute 3623C. One, whether the annexation ordinance is reasonable for long-range economic and overall well-being of the counties, the school districts, and the municipalities that be affected by the annexation. Number two, whether the health, safety, and welfare of the property owners and citizens of the county, municipalities, and areas proposed to be annexed will be negatively affected by the annexation. And item three, whether the proposed annexation has any negative fiscal impact on the county, the school districts, and other municipalities that have not been mitigated by an agreement, and for the interests of the property owners seeking the annexation. So in going over that list, we as staff tried to put together some thoughts to sort of frame the conversation between the county and the city. The factors I'm going to read to you, I just want you to understand some of these are overlapping, but they're not exhaustive, and they should be considered as potentially being incorporated in one or more of those items 1 through 4. And I'm just going to go through this as a sort of a highlighting of what we've come up with pursuant to the language of the actual statutes. So for us, consideration should be given to the long-range economic and overall well-being of the county governmental entities involved. And we've got a few things here. WSA currently is investing $3.2 million in a water and sewer infrastructure in the Caps Ferry area with the intent to serve Foxhall and the adjacent areas. And there is an expectation that those costs will be recouped through the sale of taps to the project, Foxhall having been entitled to around 800 homes and additional to the convention center. Also, discussions around the incentives given to the project by Douglas County and the Development Authority will be necessary, as well as understanding of Douglas County Development Authority's involvement versus the Fulton County Development Authority involvement in future development for the Foxhall area. It's unknown what the potential financial impacts are to public school attendance when the residential section is built out, and it's also unclear as to the impact annexation may have on school attendance zones. Because the governing authorities are elected by the same constituents, Douglas County has more incentive to be sensitive to those impacts to Douglas County schools than a city located in another county. And consideration should be given as to what impacts there may be to the tax burden, collection, and remittance. It appears that Chattahoochee Hills operates in a very lean manner and may have to provide services via agreements with Douglas County. And the county residents or businesses who will be among the Foxhall owners as development proceeds do not benefit from increased taxes without an increase in services. Another point, determinations of administrative expenses incurred by Douglas County entities without offsetting fees should be undertaken. And while the city will receive most permitting and licensing fees, especially because of service delivery issues, the county may incur expenses and costs that cannot be easily recouped. Another item would be the annexation will result in the loss and possibly a significant loss in the future of insurance premium tax proceeds. The annexation would also result in loss of road miles used to calculate state, or may result in loss of road miles used to calculate state transportation funds received by Douglas County. Another major consideration should be given to the impact of the proposed annexation on planning, public safety, ISO ratings, transportation structures, et cetera, in the area, as these directly impact the health and safety of the citizens. That relates back to item 2 in the statutory language. Chattahoochee Hills has no 911 staff, and calls would go to Douglas County E911 and have to be rerouted through Fulton County E911 services, causing possible delay in services. And though we haven't confirmed, it has been mentioned that there's some intent by Chattahoochee Hills to enter into an agreement for EMS and fire services with Douglas County. But of course, we don't have an IGA or service delivery agreement and haven't actually discussed one up to this point. And so how would county residents who are owners of Foxhall benefit from paying more taxes but not receiving enhanced services? Discussed more in the section below on benefit to the current owner. It appears the owner is primarily seeking relief from road and more especially GDOT bridge requirements that are life safety issues, according to both transportation and fire officials. Another consideration should be given to the loss of control in the land use in this area and the ancillary negative fiscal impacts to the schools and businesses located in the city of Douglasville and the unincorporated county, which relates back to number 3 in the statutory language. The comprehensive plan, the land use plan for Douglas County, which we updated in 2018, added a new character area listed as a resort mixed use, and that includes Fox Hall. The county has planned a number of plans for this area, including a scenic byway designation along 166. And this was done in recognition of the growth in the outdoor economy for the state of Georgia and the character areas supporting limited non-residential uses in the areas of recreation, agritourism, and hospitality, supporting the general economy of Douglas County. And losing control of the planning and development of this area may defeat the purposes and perhaps undermine the benefits of the addition to that comprehensive plan for this region. The businesses in the city and county of Douglas and Douglasville that include restaurants, lodging, and other ancillary businesses are in better proximity to serve the area. In light of the comp plan update to add the resort mixed-use character area, the county is better positioned to and more likely to consider the synergies important to the general economic well-being for those businesses. Additionally, county staff is working on that scenic byway designation. We're working through that process right now, and that will require corridor analysis as part of the submission. So the planning efforts are made in part to solidify and secure the new character area in this part of the county, and this planning and these important planning efforts might be jeopardized through that annexation should Fox Hall go into Chattahoochee Hill and they have different ideas about what the future of their particular comp plan would look like over here. In addition, we have the Metropolitan River Protection Act, which designates 2,000 feet on either side of the river as protected from development, which means that there's about a 4,000 foot linear distance between Fox Hall and anything that Chattahoochee Hills would build. That's almost a mile, not necessarily that far, but it is a significant distance as far as developments that might provide synergies to each other. And the comment from Chattahoochee Hills a number of years ago, when Fox Hall's DRI was in fact pushed through the ARC process in 2008, they indicated that the proposed development was not consistent with their city's comprehensive plan. There's no language in the 2016 update to show the city's comprehensive plan would suggest that conclusion differs now, though obviously petitions to annex are have to be acted on. Generally, there are significant service delivery strategic act implications that have not been discussed and for which the city has provided no proposals, even for preliminary discussion, though that's why we're meeting today. Obviously, areas where SDS conflicts may arise relate to animal control, courts, economic development, emergency management, EMS 911, fire, GIS, municipal elections, parks and recreation, police, stormwater management, and tax collection. Another consideration we would throw in would be that should be given to the interest of the property owner seeking the annexation. As we've indicated, the county has consistently attempted to work with and provide reasonable accommodation to the developer's requests, except when legal or life safety issues were presented, such as platting and bridge construction, respectively. It's difficult to see any benefit to the owner other than avoiding the expense of complying with appropriate road and bridge construction requirements. As the original zoning entitlement for the mixed-use plan development at Fox Hall was granted in 2009, the master plan approved at that time gave a number of variances, waivers, or other relief from typical county regulations. An amendment to that original entitlement was filed in 2012. And after the original zoning entitlement, the developer has come back a number of times asking for reprieve from various requirements. And we have these documentation in our zoning files and the subdivision records. And we've spent thousands of hours of administrative hours on Fox Hall, literally, related to projects and accommodations toward those projects, many of which have not yet come to fruition. All that time and effort to make this development successful and to accommodate the developer will be wasted if the property is annexed and the county loses control. Incomplete projects, just kind of for your edification, include the Westin Hotel, which is taking up a lot of room for approved building permits sitting in our front counter waiting for the developer to come pay and pick them up. Substantial development permit costs are owed and if the project should move forward, although depending some of the length of time that has expired may require some re-review of those plans. The Douglas County Transportation Department and the Planning and Zoning and Engineering have been able to grant multiple developer requests administratively, but a few have gone to the Board of Commissioners in instances where the developer sought to go below the development standards without justification. Ultimately, some were not approved. Specifically, there's bridge infrastructure, which was not included in the original master plan submissions. And as noted above, this issue was discussed as a safety issue by the fire department and DC DOT. There is still some question about which roads may be public and which roads may be private. Public roads have to meet county standards, but there's been some flexibility with roads that may be determined to be private. A final determination has not been made by the developer as to which roads are to be public and which are to be private. And this is an issue that could be resolved by rezoning to a planned unit development and allowing the creation of official development standards that would need to be developed from the original master plan. The county, just so you can understand, the county has required that bridges over some of the creeks and arroyos out there have a substructure built to GDOT standards. The aesthetic finish treatments would be allowed whatever they wanted so long as the structure met those regulations and a fire truck could safely traverse those bridges successfully. A discussion on indemnification agreements will be required if roads are allowed to be built to standards that deviate from GDOT or AASHTO standards. This would certainly complicate, if not preclude, an intergovernmental agreement for fire services with Douglas County, thus dramatically impacting any benefit to the developer. Over the past year, staff has discussed with the Foxhall owners, their attorneys, engineering firm, HRC, which happens to be Hughes Ray Corporation, the potential to rezone the county, rezone to the county's new PUD designation, our planned unit development, which we adopted in 2020 and utilized on a couple of other projects successfully. This would alleviate some of the issues that arose from omissions in the original mixed-use master plan development, which was a special use permit granted when the county did not, in fact, have availability to the planned unit development as a designation. There have been multiple requests submitted to replat phases of Foxhall as a project. There are instances where plats have been filed with Superior Court without the approval of planning and zoning. There are concerns for overlapping property lines, which we believe we've tried to correct in the last month or so. There are still concerns, however, that the issue needs to be remedied moving forward as to how this will continue to plat out. Most recently, the developer requested approvals to be given to replat condominium units to townhomes. However, the townhome units did not, in fact, have enough road frontage or public road frontage at all, but they did not have enough lot area. So there's no resolution yet on that at this time. As I said, a number of temporary certificates of occupancy have been issued over the years at the request of the developer, and there are building permits that have been issued over the years to the developer. If annexed, it is not anticipated that the county nor WSA would have a role in any future LDP, land disturbance permit, or MRPA's submissions or stormwater management. So in short, other than the issues of life safety, the bridge construction standards and legalities, platting requirements, et cetera, it's difficult to see how the owner gets more flexible treatment or beneficial treatment from another planning staff than Douglas County has already provided. On the other hand, the county has attempted to accommodate developer to make the development successful with all the benefits that the county can at least provide. And those are some of our initial thoughts. They're not complete, and we would hope that at least could frame some of the conversation. And I'll turn it back over to you, Madam Chair.
Thank you so much, Mr. Schaefer. Thank you so much, Mr. Schaefer, again, for framing discussion, certainly as we tee up remarks from our Board of Commissioners. And after the Board of Commissioners speak, I will yield to our Mr. Mayor to allow his City Council members to weigh in as well. But I will start off with the Board of Commissioners. Board of Commissioners, do you have any remarks or comments at this time? And again, thank you so much, Mr. Schaefer, for your thorough summary. If there are no questions or remarks from the Board of Commissioners, I'm going to yield to you, Mayor Reed, to allow you to facilitate discussion with your City Council.
Linda, I want to I want to make a couple of points clear too as we start. Appreciate the fact that we're finally here having this conversation. I wish that we'd had some more conversation previous to this, so that a lot of the things that were brought up in Phil's comments could potentially have answers to them already. That's something that we've been trying to do. And again, I appreciate we're starting that process now. We do have an application, and to be clear, we didn't solicit that application. We've made no decision on that application. The process, the way that the process works and where we are in the process right now means that the applicant hasn't had their day yet to make that case to our city. We do believe that landowners fundamentally have the right to make this sort of request. And since the city would probably be the entity taking on extra responsibility in that context, that's probably the most appropriate venue for the decision to be made. We hope to make that decision in consultation with our partners at Douglas County. And one of the things that is most interesting to me in the comments, and one of the things that I want to make absolutely clear, is obviously, no matter what happens, this property is still in Douglas County. It's not like we're moving it from Douglas County into Fulton County along with the rest of the city. And some of the comments seem to almost imply that that's the case. You know, we've reached out from the very beginning when we got this thing to try to set up meetings at staff level to have some of these conversations at staff level about things like public safety, where there are certainly issues that would need to be resolved, planning and those sorts of things. And again, because of, I guess, the stance that the county has taken, we wanted to have this meeting first. It's been a long time before we've actually been able to talk about these specific issues, because I think that there is a need for some staff level conversation around the particular service delivery points that would need to be resolved for something like this to even be possible. You know, things, for example, like water and sewer. Well, we don't supply water and sewer. So yes, obviously Douglas County would need to continue to do that, and Douglas County would get the money from that to pay off their water and sewer bonds. I'm curious how the schools could be impacted, because schools are run by counties in this area, and the Douglas County schools would still be the schools. So you know, some of the points that are being brought up, again, seem to me like they could be easily addressed in a conversation that should at least start now. You know, there's a legal requirement to respond to the applicant, and I want to at very least get that process going. And I'll yield too if my council have any particular comments or questions that they'd like to make before we figure out what happens next. I'm obviously happy to encourage that. Lori, Neil, Troy, or Ruby?
I have some comments, Mayor.
Yes.
Like you, I was writing furiously all the information that was just provided, and it would have been really nice to have a printout of what was being discussed before this meeting today, instead of just seeing it as a line item discussion in a special called meeting. It totally makes us unprepared to have a conversation and move this process forward. Like the mayor, I had just marked several little question marks on some of the concerns, such as loss of road mileage. We're not planning on taking over any more road mileage on Caps Ferry, as far as I know. Nothing changes there. But the comments are going so fast, there's no opportunity to digest this. Or like the mayor said, I really believe we need to have a copy of those comments, and we need to allow staff to have conversations first so they can come back to us with their interpretations and recommendations. But thank you for this starting point today. At least it is a starting point. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Hey, Mayor, it's Camille. Yes, I'm in agreement with Laurie. I think that we appreciate, thank you, Phil, for the summary. Made some notes as well. You know, just a lot of questions, things like avoiding bridge and road requirements, and you know, a lot of things I'm not quite familiar with. You know but it was a good history, actually, sort of a history lesson as to where this process has been and how much time y'all have spent. Do appreciate that, but just we'll listen out for the mayor, and hopefully we can kind of move forward with getting a little more information and kind of dial in on some of these points. Thank you.
No comments for me. Thank you.
Thanks, Ruby. All right, Madam Chairman, that's the moment. That's where we are.
Okay. So I'm assuming you yielding back. Are you yielding back? Are you?
If that's your process, that's perfect. Yes, I'm yielding back.
Yes, my process. Okay, with that being said, Board of Commissioners certainly want to weigh in just a second, few minutes to see if you all have any other questions or comments, or if you have anything. If you don't, I'll yield back to you, Attorney Bernard, regarding the next steps.
Madam Chair, hearing no comments, I think it's important to understand the process that has been undertaken over the last several months. And I hear the City Council, and I think when they talk to Rick will explain that it's not just simply an approval or non-approval by the city. The county, by statute, has a right to file an objection, which we will take up next month. And if it files the objection, as long as it's based on, it's not groundless in fact, then the movement forward would be a lawsuit. It wouldn't be just a simple vote by the city. But I'll defer to Rick outside of this meeting to explain that to the people on the call, and he may disagree with me. But anyway, I think where we're at is we're continuing the process. We all have been working very hard, and I want to compliment Rick and his team and the mayor's team. And excuse me, I have bad allergies today. I shouldn't have drank coffee. It just cheered them up. But anyway, I want to thank Rick, especially, and his team for working very diligently to get us to this point. And at least we are here today, and we will move forward as good neighbors. And we look forward to working with the city on whatever the results are that come out of this. And we thank them for taking the time to be at this meeting. That's really all I have, Madam Chair. I would ask if Rick wants to say anything, please let him before we depart.
Okay. Legal counsel, do you have any remarks from the Chattahoochee side? And it's Rick, what is Rick's last name?
Lindsay.
Lindsay. Mr. Lindsay, you have the floor if you would like.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Again, I'd like to thank Ken and the folks over at Douglas County for all of your work on this. And I will discuss with the mayor and council of Chattahoochee Hills the process. Ken and I have discussed it at length. And so thank you again for having the meeting this morning. And maybe we'll have some other conversations over the next several days or weeks. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Chair, if I may.
Yes, you have the floor, Mayor Reed.
I just want to be clear. We've had a lot of conversation too about the legal process here. And to be clear, we're not confused about the legal process and the county's right to deny or attempt to deny this process. We're not at a point either where we're making a decision yet. Our goal is to have some conversations, staff to staff, about the very points that Phil brought up. And, you know, we tried to set those meetings up months ago. And I just want to be clear that we would love to start moving forward on those sorts of conversations so that both your elected body and ours can make an informed decision based on the facts of the very issues that Phil brought up. So I appreciate the fact that we've started that process and look forward to scheduling those sorts of meetings, because that's the only way we're going to have the information that we need to make our decisions.
Okay, thank you so much, Mayor Reed. And certainly I don't see any roadblocks that would defer us from having those conversations. Certainly, I believe the two teams, both planning and zoning, and I believe we have Ron Roberts on the line. We can certainly move that forward, and certainly would like to see our both attorneys at the table still discussing this matter. And I do believe I saw just a comment from one of the city council members from Chattahoochee that they would like a copy of the comments that was rendered today by Phil Schaefer. So Attorney Bernard, is that something that you could provide or make possible?
Well, we're not going to provide documentation in preparation of this meeting. What we will provide is the minutes. We'll have a subscription of that, and it's also available online to the city council. Rick Martin, can you explain how this can be reviewed again? Because it's being recorded live out here on TV, but it's also on YouTube. Rick, are you there? Where is this at? So that if somebody wanted to go back point for point.
Absolutely. I mean, it is being broadcasted live as well as provided on our Facebook, Douglas County Happenings Facebook page, where it's streaming virtually It's a meeting that's being recorded that will be available on our website as well and on our DCTV 23 YouTube channel. So it will be available on those platforms.
And we'll also provide the minutes after the meeting if need be to Rick. Rick will coordinate with you whatever you need, okay? I'm talking about Rick Lynn.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Ken.
Thank you so much. And I would like to personally thank the Mayor Reed and his city council members for being here today to engage in discussions with this Board of Commissioners. We are proud and privileged that you just took the time out of your busy schedules today to meet with us. Certainly, we look forward to teeing up those concerns that you have, Mayor Reed, so we could all make an informed decision. And I so much agree with you on that. So we will continue the process, but this is a starting point today. In my opinion, it went quite well. We had an opportunity, if nothing else, to meet. We had to put names with faces and to say hello to the city council. And I know you, Mayor Reed, so thank you again. So if there's no other discussion, certainly I would like to adjourn this portion of the meeting, certainly with the pleasure of the board and then with the pleasure of the Mayor Reed and the city council. Are there any other discussions? If there's not, I will adjourn this portion of the meeting. And then we'll move right into our work session.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you so much. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Board of Commissioners. Good morning again, and we will move right on into our work session this morning. Clerk, do we have any public comments this morning?
Yes, ma'am. We did have 3 individuals to register to speak this morning, so I will call them out by their name and see if they're on the line. And before I do that, if I could just remind everyone that you have 3 minutes to address the board. And once those 3 minutes are up, I will let you know to finish up your statement. Okay, and when I call your name, if you could just repeat your name and your topic of what you're going to speak on. Okay, the first person I have is Mr. Levon Dixon. Mr. Dixon, are you on the line? Okay, Chairman, he may not have made it on. I'll go to the next person, Miss Shelley Tilt. Miss Tilt, are you on the line? She must not have made it either. Miss Sharon Bachtel.
Oh.
Miss Bachtel. Okay, Chairman, apparently none of them called in. But I would like to open it up if there are any other citizens on the line that would like to speak. Okay, Chairman, being none, I'll turn it back over to you.
Okay, thank you so much, Clerk Watson. Board of Commissioners, I just wanted to make a note this morning regarding the agenda. We will not be discussing purchasing cards, which are the P card program. That will be eliminated from the agenda today. So just wanted to make that known to you before we start our meeting. We have 2 presentations. Yes.
Yeah,
Watson.
may I?
Yes.
Yes, as you remove that agenda item, there was one that was omitted, which was the Solicitor General's contract that she was looking for solicitation. I'd like to discuss that later on in the agenda at your pleasure.
Okay, thank you so much, Vice Chairman Robinson. All right. Well, we'll start with our first presentation this morning, which is Douglas County Travel and Tourism, Inc. And Dorsha Simmons will be providing an update for us. Hello, President Dorsha Simmons.
Good morning, Chair Jones. Thank you for having us, and good morning, Board of Commissioners. I'm also joined by our Executive Director, Ebony Hammonds.
Good morning, everyone.
I will be presenting, and then Ebony and I both are here to answer any questions that you may have. Should I share my screen, or is your staff going to share the PowerPoint? Thank you. Can we move to slide 2? So as a little backdrop, as you all know, we came into existence March 2020 at the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic. And so now we've been in existence for a year and 3 months. Since our last time coming before you for the budget hearings, we would like to give you a little update on how the restricted hotel motel tax monies have been spent thus far. For the first time, Douglas County has billboards that are in other states. We have a billboard, Georgia, Alabama, on I-85 North, Columbus, Georgia. We also have billboards in Chattahoochee on I-75 South, I-20 East, Anniston, Alabama, and Augusta, Georgia on I-20 East. We are approximately reaching 3.8 million people a month. Next slide. In addition to that, it is, to my understanding, this is the first time that Douglas County has been advertising in the Atlanta Hartsfield-Jackson Airport, but we're in both. We're in the domestic and also the international. We have 18 screens in the north baggage claim, 2 in the south baggage claim, and as well as 2 in the international baggage claim. We are reaching about 2 million people a day. Next slide. Next slide. We have also had what we call exploration challenges, where we invite visitors and travelers alike to come and participate in exploring Douglas County. We had one for Black History Month. We had a Sweetwater Creek State Park exploration challenge and a Juneteenth. Altogether, we reached over 1.6 million people. And all the exploration challenges, people came, there were different questions that led them to destinations within the county, and then there were winners of those exploration challenges. For the Juneteenth, it actually had us in the news. Channel 11, 46 aired about it. We were also featured in the Sentinel. Commissioner Carthen had me come on to talk about it. We've also bought ads in Explore Georgia, and we're on the State Parks and Historic Sites website. Next slide, please. So what's next? We will be launching a Butterfly Trail Exploration Challenge. There are some very nice locations in Douglas County that attract butterflies due to the flowers that are there. As soon as we even hinted that we're going to have this, there are so many people who are interested in coming into our county to see the butterflies. We're also going to have an exploration challenge about our trails. We are becoming known as the County of Trails. And this is good, especially as we still endure the pandemic, and then having a pandemic-proof plan for tourism is to be able to have people to come to your locations, and they don't always have to come inside of your building. We are also having a kiosk, a visitor's kiosk put in front of the Douglas County, the old Douglas County courthouse. And this is for visitors to be able to have access, regardless of business hours, what time of the day, day of the week, where to eat, play, dine, stay, have fun in Douglas County. And there will also be advertisements about those different opportunities in Douglas County. We are also purchasing signage for the museum to include the Museum of History and Art, and putting a sign on the back of the building, because people who are on the road that's directly behind it would not necessarily know that it is the Douglas County Museum of History and Art. This is for, of course, visitors, because if you live here, you know that, but we spend our money toward visitors and travelers alike. So visitors are normally those who may live in the state, and travelers are those who live outside of the state. The other thing is we are buying the signage for, new signage for our Film Trail and Butterfly Trail, but we're also launching the Douglas County Agri Trail and the Douglas County History Trail. The Agri Trail will direct visitors and travelers to locations in Douglas County where things are homegrown, and that's to promote tourism in our agricultural partners. And then the History Trail, anything that may have history, even linking back to Native American history in Douglas County. We are very excited about that. And we're also excited about what the citizens, the committee for the Citizens to Honor Frederick Douglass are also doing, and are working with us to give us more information that can help us with our history trail. Next slide. Okay, this is just to give you a financial screenshot of what we started with, what some of our expenditures have been, and some of the upcoming costs that we have in the next couple of months. We do have two pots of money, TPD, which is actually used on physical locations, and TCT, which is marketing. And as you see, and if you have any questions, you're more than welcome to ask us, but it's just to highlight what we have going on. So currently we have $596,000, and we have about $400,000 of expenses coming up in the next couple of months. And that is it. Thank you. At this time, Madam Chair, I yield to you if there are any questions.
Thank you so much. Board of Commissioners, do we have any questions or comments for Ms. Simmons? Okay, I would like to add by saying thank you. Great job. It's so impressive to see our some advertising and marketing in the airport. You said 2 million views a day. That's awesome. And then, of course, you talked about the billboards that's located out throughout the other states and also in Georgia. So that's a lot of energy around making noise for Douglas County. So thank you all so much. And particularly I do, and I know the board as well, appreciate all the great things that you're doing, and keep the good work up. So thank you.
Thank you.
We're going to move on, board. If there are no questions, we're going to move on to our SPLOST update. Mr. David Good, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. And also Terry Gable is here for after the presentation to answer any questions.
Okay.
So again, thank you, Board of Commissioners, Madam Sudaban, and the citizens of Douglas County, as well as the staff, for actually pushing this SPLOST on through. So we're going to be reporting on revenues collected in May and work through June. So Rick, can you go ahead and cue up the presentation for me, please? First, this is actually the agenda for today. We have a report on the SPLOST revenues. Next slide. Next slide. All right, so as you see, our finances remain strong. Our May revenues are $2,762,957 as compared to our original projection. That's about a little bit over $600 million over, $684,240 over. If you look at for April revenues of 2017 to now, which is the entire SPLOST, that's $638,339. And that's nearly $9 million over budget, $9,196,710. Next slide, please. This particular chart, this is our SPLOST revenue allocation expenditures. As you can see from year 1 through 4, those are the actual revenues that we collected. We start in the month of April, and it goes through the end of March 31st. So years 1 through 4 are all actuals. Years 5 and 6 are adjusted projections. Right now, you can look at year 5, and you can see that we actually, our first 2 months of the actual SPLOST of this year came in basically looking like December numbers. This is the first time that I've known in our SPLOST time that the numbers have been this high for this time of year. Usually they are much lower. So if you include the last month of March at the end of year 4 SPLOST, all those numbers have been above 2.6 million. and only other time it's been that high has been in the month of December. So right now we're looking at Douglas County's portion. At one time was 106 million. We are now looking at being a little bit over 114 million. Next slide, please. Right here, you actually will see that same projection. If you look in this total year lineup from June of last year until the end of May this year, every revenue collection has been over the projection. The projection is that long green line, and as you see the chart, each month has been over. Anomaly was back in August of last year. We ended up getting an audit from the state, and they sent us the revenues that came from that audit. That's why that month is over 3 million. Next slide, please. Now we get into some of our completed projects. The Whitestone Culvert replacement is finished. It's very nice. The SPLOST spend was $935,531. So that project is complete. I went out to that location and some people approached me on ATV and were very excited that this project was, was coming to an end. And they were saying that it hadn't looked this nice since before the flood of 2009. So they really did appreciate the county that they actually put this project onto the SPLOST, and I'm very pleased. The next one is the Lithia Springs Senior Center. It also is completed. Right now, we're just doing some last minute aesthetics on the building, and we have a grand opening planned for August 6th on this building. So we're very excited for these two projects that were completed just really just at the beginning of this month, at the end of last month. Next slide, please. This is a picture of the Whitestone Culvert. As you see, it's clearly going easily over the little waterway that's underneath canal for the first time, connecting these two communities since 2009. Next slide, please. And this is the Lithia Springs Senior Center out there next to fire station number 1, and everything is is looking good right now. We still have some aesthetics to clean up, so we have some last minute things that we're doing. Next slide, please. All right, next we have the fire station number 11. That one is actually the driveway that we're doing, as well as some things with septic, that's dealing with septic tank and also sewer. And we're still in the process for the memorandum of agreement, and that part is in legal. So that's something that we're still working through. Fire station number 9, as you see, the budget is a little bit over $4 million. It was advertised this month, and I believe that the everything is due back. The bids are due back sometime in August. I believe it's going to be around August 15th or 9th, one of the two dates, but I have to check my records. Also, when it comes to the really building up the fleet, Madam Subadan, the new county administrator, as well as the chief, they're really working hard to increase our staff, the vehicles for those, for all our different fire stations. So we have ambulances coming in, 2 of them. The budget is $450,000. The staff is working on specifications. We're getting 2 fire truck engines, and that's at $1.1 million for that as well. They're looking on the specifications to get to the purchasing. Next slide, please. Now we have the resurfacing, 2021 resurfacing. This was approved, I believe, on July 6th at your last Board of Commissioners meeting. And this is for a total cost of $4,954,815. 3.7 of that dollars is coming from SPLOST. The rest is coming from LMIG. Next up is the Lee Road widening. As you see, the SPLOST budget for this is $9 million. Okay, the budget is $9,591,300. The rest is coming from GDOT funds. So that total is $23,941,600. And it's right now it's in GDOT's hands for review after it came from the Transportation Committee. On the Post Road Bridge over Dog River, the completion time is by the end of this month. The bridge, I believe the last check, which was a few days ago, that bridge actually is open, but we'll have some information coming out more on this. Also, we have the office trailer for the maintenance staff. This also was approved back at your last Board of Commissioners meeting, and that's and that cost is and the budget was 300,000. It came in at a little bit over 200,000. Next slide, please. Now we have our Boundary Waters Activity Center under Parks and Recreation set. The substantial date completion is August 1st. Right now, we, as you know, the issue for this building was the installation for the elevator. The company came out, the elevator crew came out to install the elevator. Then we found out on Thursday that the motor for the center had not come in. It was expected last week. We are in talks with the supplier and then also the contractor on getting that motor and finding out the date for that. Now, we also have the Bill Up and Fair Play concession building. We are at substantial completion. The last thing is going to be the landscaping for those two buildings. And when it comes to Deer Lick Park, the requisition has been approved and we've been in talks with the contractor. So you should see some movement on that new roof pretty soon. And next slide. And that is it. We have Terry Gable here to answer any questions as well as myself. I turn it back over to you, Madam Chair.
Thank you so much. Mr. Gable, do you have any remarks or comments before I yield to the board?
No, Madam Chair, not at this point. We'll just wait for any questions the board may have.
Okay, thank you so much. Board of Commissioners, do you have any questions or comments regarding this presentation? Okay, Commissioner.
Yes. No, I yield. Was it me or?
Commissioner Guider, I saw a hand.
Yeah, that's fine.
Commissioner Guider.
Thank you, ma'am. Terry or David, either one, what is the status on the right-hand turn northbound on Highway 5 at Douglas School?
Commissioner, we reports last month that we did get a good report back from the environmental assessment, and they're back now moving to finish up plans and then moving that project into right of way.
So estimated time of start, when you will start the project?
What's going to drive that is the utilities and the right of way. And that will depend on Miguel making chime in with that, but we're hoping to get this project let by the end of the year.
By the end of this year?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Now, an update on the Reynolds Road turn off of Stewart Mill Road.
Stewart Mill Road.
Uh-huh.
That project is still in the environmental phase. All the right-of-ways, as you know, we've talked about that, has been acquired for the project. As soon as Miguel's staff is able to procure the environmental permit for it, the plans are ready to go. They can bid this project out, hopefully in the fall.
So we go through the environmental, then we go through the right-of-way, right?
The right-of-way.
We already have the right-of-way.
We already have the right-of-way.
Okay.
Yes, we'll hope to get this project let in the fall.
Now, will there be an environmental study on the Highway 5 turn lane, even though there's been some construction there?
And that's what I reported. They have went through the assessment, environmental assessment on it, and it came back good.
Okay. So, but getting back to the Reynolds Road, you're saying that we should be able to proceed by the end of this year?
Yes. I mean, obviously, we've got to get that permit acquired, but our last discussions with Miguel and staff that we hope to have that secured and be able to let the project this fall.
Okay, very good. Thank you very much. I yield back, madam.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much, Commissioner Guider. Vice Chairman Robinson, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Real quick, David, a couple of questions for you. Let's start with math, which is that's always good in school. We have some excess. I heard you say, what, about $8 million above and beyond what we programmed originally or forecasted?
It's $9 million at this point, a little bit over $9 million.
Okay, $9 million over. All right, so recognizing, I'm going to acknowledge what we call the Mitchell Rule, which was a rule that was established, things that was on the list that we could get to later below the list or below the line that we would come to if we had excess. Where do we stand in all three categories in addressing those things that were already on the list and adopted by the Board of Commissioners as a priority? Have we gone down the list in all three categories?
Not in all three categories. In fire, we have gone substantially down the list, but of course we have some items still to procure, as well as building fire station number 9. When it comes to Parks and Rec, we are actually at the line when it comes to, we have some things that we need to do at Deer Lake renovations, but we are addressing the roof. So we're at the bottom line for that one. When it comes to parks and, it comes to transportation, we actually are really working on 80% of the projects that are in transportation. And I do see Madam Sudaban's hands up, so she might have a comment in this area.
Okay, so
And that's all three. That's where we are from my eyes on all three.
okay, so let me continue with my comments. The thing that we committed to the public was if we put it on the list that we would address it if money was available. And I'm just going to pick one, like fire station number 9, which is important. Our estimate of the cost of that fire station back in 2016, 17 is probably different 4 or 5 years later. So I guess I've asked this in times past. I'm going to ask for it again. It doesn't have to be responded to in this moment. When we get to the retreat, I'm hoping that we will have a reforecast. And so this is going to be, but this is part of a bigger picture. And I guess I'll use this as a moment to do this versus later, which is you've got this spin going on here. But there needs to be an alignment of not only this funding source, but with all the other things that are available to us. We've got a comprehensive transportation plan, right? We already have a long-term capital plan that the board has been working on pre-Commissioner Carther. We have, obviously the strategic plan with priorities that have been amended from the public. We've got about 4 plans that I'm hopeful, including this SPOS plan, that will be aligned. I've got a lot of sources, a lot of moving parts. And so this is a broader question to Madam Administrator, David. I'll take it from here, which is the expectation at the mid-year retreat is that everything is aligned. It can't have, and don't forget, I'm not going to forget the ARPA plan. ARPA, SPLOST, strategic plan, comprehensive transport plan, SPLOST plan. Single view, guys. So we can see everything as we go into making decisions. Sort of like the meeting we just came through from what I want to say, the joint meeting we had with City of Chattahoochee. I can feel them. I get it. I get that they would want to know. I would love to have that punch list of everything so I can make a qualified and informed decision. I get it. That's a different situation, obviously. I'm obviously biased and fiduciary to me. So I get the point, and thank you, Ken. But my point here is that please, let's get this right. This will be your true official coming out, Madam Administrator, is at that mid-year retreat where we can see everything, one single view of everything, so that we can make a solid decision about the future of this county. So with that being said, David, I mean, you guys have got to feed all these plans up into one single view. And I'm going to continue to emphasize that over the next 2 meetings so that expectations are clear. We came through a lot last year to get to this place. And being in a financially stable position can't be taken for granted. It can't be just, look how great we are. No, it's going to be deliberate and intentional. Right? I mean, to be in this place, you had to earn this place. Right? So it's important that, I'm looking for everybody to rally around. Madam Chair, we'll have to call David Corbin out, off the bench in essence to get in here and make sure that we continue where we left off last year. And also going into that mid-year retreat, that we got a single, looking at our policy that we're also clear about sort of where we stand. And so this is one of those like, okay, we talk about policy and what's written, but we're very clear on what's written with this. Right? Let's be clear, let's be clean, let's be crisp, and let's get in and get out. So That's all I wanted, Madam Chair, was to emphasize that. And I don't even have to make commissioner comments later. So I'm good, Madam Chair. And David, thank you for that. I'm good. I'm good enough. I yield the floor.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much, Commissioner Robinson. Before we move on, I see the hand of our county administrator. County administrator, do you still have a comment or?
I would just want to respond, Commissioner. We are crystal clear. That's all.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Madam County Administrator. We're going to move on then.
Madam Chair.
Okay, Commissioner Mitchell, you have the
Yes,
floor.
yes. Okay, thank you. And I'll be brief. I just kind of echo what my colleagues are speaking of, but just a couple of things, David. One of which, I may have missed this. I've been in and out of the room. The minority and or local spending. How are we in that vein?
We're still doing great in that vein, but to me, we're doing great in that vein. I report on that every, bi-monthly. So a full report on that will come out next month. But when I look at, we still are performing close to that 83 to 85% participation on active projects. Again, I want to emphasize on active projects because we have, I believe, maybe somewhere around 52, 53 projects that are completed. So this is only on the 30 or so active projects that we're doing, that we're actually tracking the minority participation as active. So that can always, people always know, are there opportunities coming in, such as we have 2 projects that's going on now that the community could go out there and go online and actually bid on the project. So they have architecture design services. They can actually have a chance to go out there, and we always speak to the public about those type of opportunities.
Great. Okay, so I'll look for that update next month.
Yes,
let's also talk about, okay, so an update, spreadsheet layout as we've had in the past. It's something that we haven't done in the, recently, kind of where we are above the line. There's a below the line, and I think with the funding source of SPLOST have done exceptionally well thus far. When can we get an update, kind of what we've already spent and got through, what may or may not make it, and where's below that line of where we got, that's below the line that we always talk about? Can we get some updates on that, or another spreadsheet to kind of put us in line as to where we are realistically and where we could possibly be once this SPLOST is completed, and what might get missed? And then that way we can kind of look down the road as to, with Madam Suidan and others, kind of what that looks like down the road on the next SPLOST if we attempt to go after it or anything of that caliber. So just when can we get something like that? Or
At the retreat, Commissioner Mitchell.
Oh, that will be at the retreat. Okay. All right. Thank you, Madam Superintendent. Let's move on to my next. You mentioned about fire station number 9. And so I agree with Vice Chairman Robinson. That cost that we spoke of, David and Madam Superintendent, then when we were looking at this fire station number 9, is probably not going to be a realistic number now, because the real number now is probably almost a half, not more, in cost because of the cost of supply and demand. Are we working to kind of get there? Okay, I see you nodding, so help me with that.
Yes, sir. Yes, we are looking at that. We're also looking at any other projects to see if our projections and our budget numbers may have been dated. So again, at the retreat, we will be bringing the reforecasting, and we'll be bringing a single view so that you'll be able to make an informed decision.
Great. Okay, now let's move on to the senior citizen, not the senior citizen center, but the community center. So are we unscheduled, David, or we should be fine? Were we moving toward, or kind of help me understand kind of where we are with that?
Okay, for me, and just from all the information we've been getting, that we were still on board, still looking at the August 1st date to be substantially completed. And as you was hearing, the holdup is the motor.
That's correct.
The motor was supposed to come out last week. That's why the elevator company was there. Their crew was installing the elevator. So the elevator, I was there myself on Thursday. The elevator actually is in there. They're just waiting on that motor, and we're in talks with the supply company as well as the contractor on getting that motor. That motor could come in today, tomorrow, or next week, but we will keep you guys updated as that time moves. So if it comes to a point to where you see it's not going to happen, we'll have to end up going to plan B. I understand some talks are about getting a temporary CO to where that top floor might not be available, but we'll deal with that when we get to it. But right now, we're in hopes that will be delivered soon.
Yeah. Okay. So at least you guys are on top of it. Great job. I mean, now let's move on into the Senior Citizen Center. The punch list update. I know we got a grand opening scheduled for August 6th, and I know Madam Superdan is trying to bring all the bells and whistles, but we want to be conservatively safe, but we'll kind of have that dialogue. But are we still scheduled for the 6th? From my understanding, talking to Dr. Gilchrist, that is a yes, but my only question is the punch list. I know we talked about a punch list. It shouldn't be, I mean, I guess they're still working on it. I guess my thoughts are, but I don't know. You tell me.
Yes, Commissioner, they're still working on this punch list.
So the punch list is, but this, to me, the punch list to me should have been done, but I'm assuming that there may be other concerns, or I mean, I'm a little lost. What's taking it so long?
Commissioner, right now, he's primarily working on warranty type issues.
Okay.
The punch list is completed.
So the concrete looks great now, I guess.
Yes, well, he went back in and he completely replaced one of the patches. Yes, he's done work on both patch areas that we talked about with him. And he's moving on to, we had some issues with one of the windows that had a slight leak in it, and some of the floor drains in the bathroom. So he's staying on top of it, and we're tracking it and moving forward with it.
So David, I guess I don't mean to kind of put you out there, but have you took a hard look at those, David, to say that based on our conversations that this is up to par now, or?
Well, really, once I'll be able to say it's up to par once those items actually are completed, and James has actually come over there to take a look as well to make sure that they're doing what they're supposed to do architecturally or construction wise. So I would say that at least they're on it to getting it done.
Okay, and I'm assuming you guys are definitely keeping Dr. Gilchrist and Madam Superdan fully embraced in this whole makeup, so we can make sure that, for what we spent, we're getting what we paid for, correct?
Correct. I'm usually in talks with Dr. Gilchrist every other day just to find out what's going on and talking to her, and then, so she can be comfortable in that we actually are looking to it.
Okay, and I'm gonna leave on this note because I know I didn't mean to take this long. The last payment or so, anybody idea, are we done with the payments, or have our last payment been actually submitted on the SPOS?
Right now, of course, we always end up paying the bond on certain dates. We have in October, and the final payment is going to be due in April. But right now, with the first 2 months, we collected enough money in April and in May to cover the rest of the bond. So right now, we are in nothing but pay-go money from now until the end of the program.
That's what I was hoping to hear, because I just know we've been so far ahead. And correct me if I'm wrong, did I hear $6 million or $9 million overage, or make sure I heard that correct?
You heard 9.
Okay. All right. Listen, I'm done. Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm going to leave it there, and thank you guys. Job well done, and to all of you guys, I really appreciate it, and I yield back.
Right. Thank you so much, Commissioner Mitchell. And thank you so much, Mr. Good and Mr. Gable. Thank you. Massive. You're welcome. If there's nothing else from the board regarding this SPLOST update, we're going to move on. Board of Commissioners, tomorrow you will have the opportunity to approve our minutes. So please, I encourage you to review the minutes accordingly. We have the commission meeting minutes of July 6th, the work session minutes of July 1st, and then we have the executive session minutes of July 1st. Please, if you, at your pleasure, please take a look at these minutes and we'll move forward. I'm asking everyone if you could mute your mics. I hear some noise, some background noise. All right, Board of Commissioners.
Madam Chair?
Mm-hmm. Vice Chairman Robinson.
Yes, I'd like to, and this is to the county clerk. County clerk, I just see how I was going to phrase this. County clerk, so if we were going to, just for the official record, to amend a prior decision by the Board of Commissioners, specifically a contract that we did, I forgot the gentleman's name or the name of the firm, providing us with access consulting. I want to make sure that the source of funding for that 6-month term was acknowledged in the minutes. It was not, and I want to make sure I know where it came from. So first, County Administrator, what was the source of funding for that consultant, please?
Commissioner, I believe it was contingency funding. I'd have to circle back and check with finance.
And I'd like to also know what is the balance of our contingency funding against that.
I will.
And so those are, I mean, so can we get that corrected by tomorrow, Madam Clerk? Can we make sure that's amended in the proper record? I don't know how we can do it. That's why I just want to make sure we clarify that. And to that point, I think it's something that we talk about, but we don't necessarily enforce it. You know, when we're not transparent again regarding financials and what things cost, what we expect, and I don't know if it's intentional or unintentional when I look at things, or at least they're read to me, and there's no financial data, or we have to go deep as Board of Commissioners to find information. So I'd like to make a request that we can, let's raise our game on that. So we shouldn't have to go search and have to, you know, sort of discern and stuff. I mean, let's just, you know, the numbers don't lie, just stack them up so that we can keep up with this. So I don't think it was intentional, very honestly. I just think it was a behavior that just wasn't, you know, didn't have to in times past. But I think that the past is the past, but we can do better. So I ask that we do better with that, since we are a board of roads and revenue, as my colleague would say from the 4th District in times past. It's all about appropriations. And so it's always mindful to make sure we don't take that for granted. So that's all I wanted to make it known regarding that. Madam Chair, I yield back the floor. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Vice Chairman Robinson. All right, we have the County Administrator business. County Administrator, do you have any business today?
Good morning, Madam Chair. Yes, I have 2 items this morning. One of them is, so first of all, I'd like to acknowledge Rosalind Miller's support of our finance department, myself, the board, and I discovered that we didn't officially do a contract amendment to be able to compensate Terminus for her wonderful service. And so even though we have our new finance director on board, Rosalind will continue to support us through August 31st because we do not have a deputy finance director. But as with everything, there's some cleanup items that we have to do. And it was discovered that this was not actually voted on in an official meeting. So I'd like to ask that you do a contract amendment with Terminus in order to be able to cover that cost of $70,363. And the funding source is finance in the personnel section because we have vacancies in that area. And I yield for any questions, Madam Chair.
Okay. Board of Commissioners, you have any questions regarding tab number 4, which is the approval of the contract amendment with Terminus?
Yeah, may I?
Yes, Vice Chairman Robinson, you have the floor.
Yeah, 2 points. One, I heard that, yes, Rosalind's contributions have overlapped and been invaluable, supporting basically 2 finance directors, and we appreciate that leadership. In essence, to providing stability to us in a very core area. As I've always said, you know, control your voice, control your money, control your procurement, control your legal, and overall just control your spend. That being said, we went, 3-4 months and we haven't paid this firm. And that bothers me, that was, again, whether it's intentional or unintentional. And it's not that, I heard the point about it wasn't in writing, but in essence, that means this person wasn't being paid. Yet this person is sitting here full time. I have a problem with that. It's the spirit of doing what's right because it's right. And so I duly noted that I thought we've always had the spirit of, no, you pay your bills. Now, I appreciate that they're here and they're showing commitment, right? I'm just not finding out, I had that problem, like even with the coroner in times past when things aggregate and stuff, like, okay, like really? Like, no. So I apologize to Terminus for something like this, to have somebody at that level. And so not being paid, it can't be marginalized. It can't just be dismissed like, oh, well, no, that wasn't right. And so again, I do apologize for that. Again, one more time, we can do better in that regard. I mean, obviously it was pretty publicly known what this role was. So the courtesy and the attention, the things that you need to focus on that, right? Focus those things up. So Madam Administrator, I appreciate you for at least all those who might have been involved in helping bring this forward. I think it goes without saying. So, I mean, again, let somebody, can the majority of the people on this call take what that was about a 4, 5, 6 month that they didn't get a paycheck as a consultant? So what, they just floating? I mean, I need to think about that. So you can't take people for granted, right? I need this to be heard. You can't take vendors for granted, right? You can't extract their ideas, right? That's not Douglas, right? You don't try to get out of them all you can. I'm going to refrain from going further, but this right here is unacceptable. It's too much. This wasn't just, everybody is equal, but this is an open rebuke. Like, that's unacceptable. The work that firm did for us to get us through this moment, to get us here, they floated for 6 months and nobody folks to pay them. And I just found out about that. Now, of course, I was livid. Like, really, guys? Like, where's the responsibility? Where's the leadership and all? Where's the oversight? I could go on. Right? And it's just, so again, it has to be said. Let's do better. Now, I get it. We're changing. We're moving forward. So there's a higher expectation. So I'm going to let the past be the past. But, Madam Chair, I just had to say that just, you miss a month. You go past through 6 months. Like, look, okay, you go 6 months, guys, and you don't get your paycheck? What are the implications for you, for your household? Or the person that you work for, we couldn't get around to it. So how do you think that makes a firm feels? Taken for granted? That's not us. Definitely not District 2 and what we think. So I made my point, and Madam Chair, I'm fine. I yield for now. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Vice Chairman. The point is well taken. All right. Any other discussion regarding this particular matter, which is tab number 4? If not, Board of Commissioners, I'm going to move on to the next tab, which is tab number 5.
Chair.
Commissioner Carr, please.
Thank you so much. Okay. I think I heard Madam Superintendent say that Rosalind Miller with Terminus will only be with us through August. And I just want to ask this board to please reconsider that. Ms. Miller is such an important role. She's in such an important role, and she has history, right, with us as a county. And we're moving into some very, very important decision-making times. And so, Madam Superintendent, I really, I trust your leadership. I trust who you have appointed as the next county finance director. I trust that you have that on lock, but I just want oversight. And I know Ms. Miller has tons of experience. She's been doing it, right? She was doing it before you got here. She's, been helping with the transition, and I just would feel better. I think this board would too, if we could look at asking Terminus to allow her to stay on at least until the end of the year. We just have so many important decisions to make when it comes to finance. including the $5 million that we just got appointed from Congressman Scott's office for our Diamond Divergent. There are just so many decisions in regards to finance, the art money, lining up the projects that Commissioner Robinson has stated, the special projects that we have going on with the community. Her knowledge and her experience and terminus experience is just invaluable. And so as a county, I ask that you look at that and that you reconsider keeping her on beyond August. That's my comment. Thank you so much, Madam Chair. I yield.
Thank you so much, Commissioner Carthen. That consideration will come from this Board of Commissioners, not the county administrator. Certainly, if that's what we need, and that is a request, certainly I would just, we can weigh in a little later. We could engage in discussions, Board of Commissioners, if you so do want that contract to go through the 31st, because we do have some big ticket items that are coming before us very soon. So just wanted to just make that known to you, Commissioner Carthen. So to just come to you. Yes. Commissioner Robinson, I hear you.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. I'll be quick with to Commissioner Carthen's point and about continuities. Is the new county finance director here?
She is not here this week, Commissioner. She had, before accepting the role, she had international travel plans that couldn't be changed. She did tell me that before coming on board. And to Commissioner Carthen's point, David.
Hold on, don't go beyond that. All right. Yeah. So let's not dismiss through that. All right, duly noted. But I'm trusting that she'll be there during the mid-year retreat. And I think to that point, there's one thing about managing the day-to-day of finance. There's another advising the Board of Commissioners, right? And I think to Madam Carthen's point, I'm not settled where it's too new, too early. I don't think we can cut so fast. So I'd like to give consideration, Madam Chair, to extending them through this mid-year retreat as we all do, all the way to the end of the year. Because when I talk about the mid-year retreat and the decisions that are going to be made, both financially and organizationally and all thereof, I need all hands on deck. We got to get this right. And right now, I'm unsettled with such a fast transition. We found ourselves in that way in times past when people just drop off, whether it's in IT or different areas I can enumerate for 13 years, where sometimes that it catches you. So I'd like to, since this is going to be on the agenda, to pay him in the past. We need to re-extend, of course, pay his invoice. But of course, extend through the end of the year. I could support, we talk about 5 months or 6 months. I could support that, Madam Carthen. So, Madam Chair, we can work on this offline to bring it forth if the board so chooses concurrently. I yield. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Vice Chairman Robinson. All right. Are there any other comments before I move forward? All right. We're going to move on to our second item, which is of the county administrator's business, which be tab number 5, approval of an agreement with Media Miracles for media and communications production consultant services in the amount of $75,000 for fiscal year 2021, and authorize the chairman to sign all related documents subject to final legal review. County Administrator Sharon Subidan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Media Miracles has done some work with the county before. They are uniquely qualified to come on board and help me with the overhaul of our communications department. I think that there are some legitimate concerns. Commissioner Robinson talked about our voice, and I have identified where we have some real challenges there, and would like to have them partner with us. They will be engaged with our production, especially as we go live beginning next month back in person. They will be evaluating our equipment, which some of that equipment was purchased with this building in 1998. We are in a whole different paradigm of customer engagement, community engagement at this point. And I really feel the need to have an established professional in the industry to come on board to really help us with the production side of the house. They'll also be engaged with training staff and helping our staff to get up to speed in order to really engage the public well, to present ourselves in the best possible format, and to really revamp our public image, our communications, our public engagement, and even our public events. So most of you have familiarity with Ms. Chavez Rucker. She is on the call if you have any specific questions. And with that, Madam Chair, I yield.
Thank you so much, Madam County Administrator. Certainly, I don't have any questions for Ms. Rucker, but I do have questions regarding the source of funding for the $75,000. I believe this, we're not at this point, you just, because we seem like we need some technical support. And at this point, I believe this $75,000 will be utilized from those vacancies that we have in our existing call center, which is communications. Just want to make that very clear.
That is correct. This will be revenue neutral. And to Commissioner Robinson's earlier point, we will put the amount and the funding source in the description of agenda items going forward. It is in there, but it's buried. So we'll start to make sure that it's in the description up front where the funding is coming from, so there is no confusion.
Okay, thank you so much, County Administrator. Commissioner Gaidar, I see your hand. You have the floor.
Yes, Administrator Subadan, did this come out of the Communications Committee, this recommendation? And is there going to be an RFP?
It is not. It did not come through, I guess, the Programming Committee. I did have conversation with Commissioner Mitchell, who chairs the Programming Committee, and he feels my pain in this area partly because of the sense of urgency, where we're less than 30 days to going live. We've identified a number of issues with our communications equipment. You may recall that DC 23 was off the air. I've met with Comcast. They're very willing to help us, but they've also identified that the issues are on our side, on the equipment side. I did feel a sense of urgency to bring this forward.
So will there be an RFP? Will it be advertised?
This is a professional service agreement. So no, I did not do an RFP. We did reach out to some other areas that do technical, but they were not able to provide us with a comprehensive view of services. We will have to use a very technical company to help us with replacement of equipment. And that will be brought before the Programming Committee or the Technical Committee, whichever one is more appropriate.
Well, did you get 2 other bids or 3 other bids on this?
I got quotes that were...
I'm just trying to see if we're following the proper procedure.
Sure. My understanding of professional services is that we do not have to advertise an RFP. We did get quotes. We were not able to get 3 quotes, but the other quotes were not consistent with the scope that's necessary. And the technical one in particular was taking a really long time to get back to us.
All right. I just don't like to just put something out there for $75,000 without more than one company having a say so about it. So anyway, I yield back.
Madam Chair, you're muted.
Thank you so much, Commissioner Gaidar. All right, any other questions from the board or comments regarding this? Okay, if there's nothing else, I'm gonna move on. Thank you so much, Madam County Administrator.
You're welcome.
Tab number 6, we're gonna move right into our business items. We'll start with tab number 6, approval of an agreement with the Cultural Arts Council of Douglasville and Douglas County for the Public Art Heart Project, and authorize the chairman to sign all related documents subject to final legal review. Director Leitner, Emily Leitner, there you are. You have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Commissioners, for having me today. As mentioned, my name is Emily Leitner. I'm the Executive Director for the Cultural Arts Council nonprofit here in Douglas County. In 2019, the CAC created the Public Art Initiative. The purpose of public art is not only to enrich the community and improve our quality of life through its ability to enrich our environment, and also to ignite the imagination, to encourage thought, and to prompt discourse. Public art benefits our community through placemaking, bringing people together, and can be used as a tool in economic development. Public art can also strengthen personal connections to one's community. This project will create opportunities for artists for these one-of-a-kind art pieces. Love Where You Live is an opportunity to be a part of an exciting campaign that champions the arts, energizes the community, and makes a statement throughout the region. It's a chance to help create a world of unfettered opportunity where the best and the brightest can make their marks, impact their local communities, and contribute to a more competitive Douglas County. The CAC evaluated, once created the Public Art Initiative, our low-hanging fruit with public art and have accomplished many projects such as the Arts on Fire Hydrant Project, our Rain Barrel Contest, and our Art Pop Billboard Project. A study was done by Elevate Douglas a few years ago. One of the items classified was the very large portion of Douglas County give back to the community through nonprofits or churches, identifying Douglas County community has heart. Similar to how Carrollton has wolves, Athens has bulldog sculptures, the CAC created the Love Where You Live project to help celebrate the bond between businesses and the community. The hearts will be 32 inches wide by 4 feet tall. The CAC's Public Art Committee juried in artists representing different backgrounds, portfolios, age, and race. The Public Art Committee identified 14 locations throughout Douglasville and Douglas County, which have high traffic areas and great walkability. These colorful original sculptures will be designed as an artistic focal point reflecting the community's values, histories, and bond. In addition, these sculptures will be a tourism driver and selfie destination spot. 5 of these locations are on Douglas County property. Today, we request permission to include a public art heart in the following 5 locations: Douglas County Courthouse, Dog River Library on Highway 5, Douglas County Library, Boundary Waters and Aquatic Center, and the Douglas County Fire Department Station 10. This will be a year contract, which will be reviewed and reevaluated at the end of each year. This project is funded by a grant the CAC received from the Georgia Department of Economic Development and the CAC's Public Art Fund. We thank you for your consideration on the request of the 5 locations presented to include a public art heart. If you have any questions at this time, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you so much, Executive Director Emily Leitner. Board of Commissioners, do we have any questions for Ms. Leitner? Well, sounds good. Okay, we have Commissioner Carthen. There you go. Okay.
Thank you. Good morning, Ms. Leitner.
Good morning.
My question to you is, have you identified who those will be, who the vendors will be for the exact piece of art? Have you guys identified that, gotten that far as to what that will look like, who it will be, how you will, do you have any say in that? How, what we would like? Just questioning.
Yes, ma'am. Great question. So we have already identified the 14 artists. And then in addition, they have all sent over rough draft sketches. And right now we're working on receiving their final revisions. And once we get those back, and then we'll go to either a commissioner who wants to be a part of it, or if it's the, for example, like the library, if one of their staff members want to be a part of it to review it. The CAC does have final approval. The heart will belong to the Cultural Arts Center. However, we most definitely want to make sure that our commissioners and our community and the locations are happy with the project as well.
Great. I'm excited about this project. I think it's a great project, and it'll help to beautify our locations. Of course, we're in agreements with that. And also, I think this has to do with travel and tourism as well, because when you start putting out art pieces like this, you want to invite the community and those outside the community to see it. And I think it just elevates our quality of life. So thank you so much to the Cultural Arts Center for even considering this and for coming to us regarding this. I think this is a great project. So thank you so much, Emily.
Thank you, Commissioner.
I deal with that.
Okay, thank you so much, Commissioner Carthen. Any other questions for Mrs. Leitner? Okay, I'll close by saying thank you so much. And if you could, Mrs. Leitner, if you could send just some samples to our Board of Commissioners. I won't take up time right now to do that, so they could just see the beautiful hearts, some of the samples of those beautiful hearts. Thank you for doing so. All right, Board of Commissioners, if we don't have any questions, we're going to move on to our next tab, which is tab number 7, approval of the 2021 countywide commercial property revaluation in the amount of $265,000 and authorize the chairman to sign all related documents. We have Mr. Steve Balfour, who's our tax assessor, on the line this morning to explain what this item is all about. Mr. Balfour, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning, all. I am happy to be here. After being less than 6 months with the county, it became very evident that our commercial properties are really not in line with what the market is showing. With that, I immediately think that it's urgent that we do a total countywide revaluation both on commercial and industrial properties, land and improvements, so we can be in line with market values. A good example is a property that we have at approximately $800,000 sold for $2 million. So with that, it was evident that we really needed it and we needed to act fast. So I got 2 quotations. There are 2 major suppliers of these services in the market. One is the Georgia Mass Appraisal Solution Services, and the other is Tyler Technologies. And got quotations from both. Georgia Mass Appraisal Services came in at $250,000. Tyler Technologies came in at $265,000. It must be noted that we have the Board of Commissioners has already approved the updating of the tax commissioners as well as the tax assessor system to use Tyler Technologies. So I would think it would make better sense to have Tyler do this revaluations because they have a more robust income module, and they would be the best supplier of this service to update our system and do the revaluation, since we will be going to Tyler Technologies real soon. So with that, I'm asking for the board's approval so we can have this put in place. I do have Mr. Kevin Rake from Tyler Technologies who is online, if there are any questions.
Thank you so much, Mr. Balfour. If Mr. Kevin Ray, if you could just continue on with the discussion where Mr. Balfour left off. Certainly this system seems like it's beneficial in terms of capturing some potential, not necessary losses, but to bring us in line with, I'm gonna say the 21st century, because we are behind on some things here in the county. And this is a perfect time to actually capture that opportunity. Mr. Rake, if you could just tell us a little more about Tyler Technology and what the system could do to further complement the need for us to address the commercial property here in Douglas County.
Madam Chair, point of order, Madam Chair?
Yes.
Yeah, before he gets into the pitch, can I ask a question? I think it's
yes, absolutely, Board of
Mr. Tax Commissioner, Mr. Tax Assessor, welcome. I got, and I know you've been here, thank you, Madam Chair. You've been here 6 months, and I get that. But I need to drive home this point, and I think it's a perfect segue before we get into our guest here, which is been my point all along. We're undervalued. You've left too much on the table. So I get that the rooftops, the homeowners are having to pick up a burden, but look, you're not even taxing right, the commercial side. That's why you have commercial industry here or industrial to sort of offset that. But again, this is something that like, guys, no, we felt that unnecessarily because we haven't modernized ourselves. It's about modernization. Calculating the taxes with an abacus is like, okay, I get it. It's great that it was done and it can be done, but it's like, no, we can do better than that. Now I'd like to, I want to hear the analytics that says, okay, so what did we tax over the past 10 years? And what if we would have had this system in place? I want to know that difference. My question is, can that system show me? Because I want to make a point. We're too big of a county, the 10th largest, the 8th most dense. And it's like, no, we're undervalued. And no, it's not cool nor wise. The citizen says, we got low taxes out here. No, you're not carrying the burden. You're not the people who should be paying. They're not. Doesn't matter who you are, just pay your part. Small, you pay $1, you pay $1. You pay $2 million, you pay $2 million. But it needs to be equitable. It doesn't have to be equal. But there needs to be an equitable sharing. So I'd like to know right now, what is the split between residential and non-residential? So Mr. Tax Assessor, you can come back to that later if you don't know that off the top of your head. I'm just a little early in the morning for me. I just can't, I don't remember what our digest split is. But more importantly, I do want to know the delta between, again, for the past decade, what we have charged our commercial and industrial, and had we done it the right way or the modern way, what is that gap? And I want to know, can that question, so Madam Chairman, I'm going to yield that. Can you answer that question for you, Mr. Tyler Technologies? Will your software be able to have some historical analyticals in it? Will it be able to extend forward? Can you talk to us beyond just calculating in the moment what my values are?
Thank you so much, Vice Chairman Robinson. And certainly I know, Mr. Balfour, you have the request that Commissioner Robinson just put before you, and I know you could crunch those numbers and provide that information to him, if not now, but at a later time this week, so he could have the information. Certainly, I believe when you provide the answer, that's going to, this certainly will pay for this request by itself. I will also like to say, Board of Commissioners, we are moving from arithmetic to calculus. And with that being said, I'm going to move straight to Mr. Rake. Mr. Rake, if you could just further enlighten us about what your system could do.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, members of Douglas County. I was asked to present a scope of work that would encompass evaluation of approximately 3,200 properties, commercial, industrial, and exempt properties for a lien date of January of 2022, utilizing your current CAMA system. As we all know, your current CAMA system is WinGap and is going to be migrating over to a Tyler product known as IAS World. And IAS World is, in fact, a much more robust CAMA system, capable of valuing using the cost approach, the market approach, and the income approach that was alluded to earlier. The scope of work that we're proposing here is to do a revaluation on your current CAMA system, WinGap, bring values up to market, utilize. But in addition to that, one of the things that in this scope of work that separates us is we intend to review the record of each property on site, the record as it is in your current CAMA system, but parallel to that, list each record for its use in your new CAMA system, IAS World. Then calibrate WinGap, produce those values, and go through the process of revaluation. We would also store those records for when the IAS World product is available, so that when it is your active camera system. Values can be updated, and the cost and income modules in IAS calibrated, and then for the 2023 year, you would be up and running with IAS World. To speak to the question earlier, can we review prior value versus new value and do some analytics to determine is there a tax shift from residential over to commercial once these are done? Yeah, we can certainly help with the analytics there. I don't know if it answers your question or not, but I will yield for any other questions or requests for clarification.
Thank you so much. I believe we have a question from Ms. Commissioner Geiger. I'm sorry.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Rake, we just purchased a system from Tyler, and why can't the tables be updated to the cost per square foot to build or whatever? Why can't they just be updated in the system we just purchased? And another question is, I would like to know, is this just on personal, is this on real estate, not personal? And will we own this will we have this available to us in future years without coming to a third party? So.
Okay, so it's real, it's not personal property.
Okay.
Okay. Secondly, your current CAMA system collects information differently than the information is collected for IAS World. That's number one. That's why we would like to verify the record in your WinGap system and collect information in preparation for IAS World's implementation. That way it minimizes the need to visit the property more than one time. We can address any outstanding issues or lack of data that exists now during this initial visit that doesn't need to happen later. It gets down a little bit into the weeds with your question. It's a very simple, very direct question, but to answer it adequately, it's going to take a moment to drill down into how data is stored in both systems. In WinGap, a property is described in one manner, and in IAS World, the exact same property can be described in a different manner, the way we identify each level of a building, each story, the interior features and things like that. Ours is more in-depth and more precise, allowing us to calibrate the modules that are used to produce value for cost and income, whereas WinGap only right now promotes a cost answer. And yes, in fact, you will own this data. You will own those tables. Those will be your tables to manage in the future how you deem necessary. You know, the appropriate practitioner can go through the analytics and develop the square foot rates for land, the cost of a building, or the income information required to develop an income approach to value. I don't know if that answers your question or not, but I hope it does.
Well, in real estate, just private property, residential, things like that. The Board of Assessors, and maybe I need to address this to Mr. Balfour. Y'all do every 3 years, you make a circle to revalue all the real estate in the residential part of the digest. If you do all this one shot, on commercial, you're gonna have appeals out the yang-yangs. And you know, as I do, and everybody on the board, that the commercial people are the ones that have the high price attorneys oftentimes. So, and they could tie up the digest. Is this a possibility? To do all of it at one time?
I strongly recommend that we do all at one time so that we can be uniform. We have not been doing what should have been done on an annual basis. So properties have been sold and resold, and we weren't moving with the pace of what the commercial market was going. So I think we need to have a base for the commercial values. The land values are off, and we need to look at all the land together. We cannot look at a portion of the land and then the land next door has a different rate. So we need to look at things together and uniformly. So I think this needs to be done at one time. And I strongly recommend that it's done.
With residential, you do a third of it one year, a third of it the next year, a third of it the next year. And there's always a little disparity because of that.
Absolutely.
But, when you do all the commercial at one time, we're going to have a lot of appeals. You know that. And I just wondered, are we going to bite off more than we can chew at one time? The last thing we would need is to have our digest tied up where it could not be accepted by the state.
And your point is taken, but I think that if taxpayers are aware, if I purchase a property for $2 million and it's been assessed at $700,000, and we move the value to the appropriate value, the taxpayer knows the real value of their property. And I do understand that they will appeal, but we need to do what we need to do.
And I understand that, you know, but right now, real estate is hot, but it's going to cool off at some point too. So, but I just wondered, is this another module off what we just purchased?
No, it's just revaluation. It's I asked WinGap for a quote. It's revaluation. They have the resources and the manpower to go out and look at all the properties, remeasure, validate, correct, update. It's just a revaluation.
So they're going to actually go out and view the property.
Absolutely. That we're going to get bodies going to the properties, getting updated pictures, remeasuring and validating the numbers and giving us the correct value on these properties.
Okay, I just was confused as to what we just purchased and then this. And I just thought this was a new module to be placed on what we just purchased, or they're going to provide the manpower.
They're going to provide a service, yes. So it's just, and it's a one-time service, and it's going to be, the advantage of Tyler is they are also implementing the Tyler system, the comma. So once they collect the information, it can be inputted in the format that Tyler wants.
Okay, with that, I yield back. Thank you, Madam.
Thank you so much, Commissioner Geiger. All right, any other questions for Mr. Steve Baum for either Mr. Rake this time, board?
Yes. Go ahead, Hen. No, I'll
I only got just one. Give me the numbers again, the cost that you mentioned about Tyler versus the other.
Tyler Technologies came in at $265. GMAS, which is Georgia Mass Appraisal Solutions and Services, came in at $250,000.
And you answered the other question about what Commissioner Geiger mentioned about the personal or real property, and it's all real.
It's all, yes, it's real commercial properties, real properties.
Okay, I'm good, Madam Chair. Go right ahead.
Okay, thank you so much, Commissioner Mitchell. And I believe I saw Commissioner Carthen and then Commissioner Vice Chairman Robinson. I'll come back to you. Commissioner Carthen.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My question is probably to Mr. Balfour. In doing this commercial reevaluation, how moving forward will we handle new commercial buildings that come on board, including those that are now under tax abatement? Will we be looking at those as well in this reevaluation? And then my second question to you is, do we also have staff? Will our staff be accompanying the service provider, Tyler Technologies, so that they in the future will also have some of the technical savviness to keep this moving forward? I'm assuming, and I could be wrong, that you're using them because we don't have the manpower right now, and we need to get this up and going. So those are my two questions. I'll yield and wait for your response, Mr. Balfour. Thank you, Madam Chair.
That is correct, Commissioner Carthen. We do not have the manpower, and they also have the resources and the economies of scale, so they can go out and provide it to us at a much better cost, and we need to have this done as soon as possible.
Okay, so my other question is, will our staff be accompanying them, right? So that, moving forward, we won't have to spend this amount of money. I understand the upfront investment, but moving forward, how will we maintain this?
That is also true. Okay. We do have one staff member that does commercial properties right now, which is also inadequate. But yes, our current commercial property appraiser will be shadowing the Tyler Technologies personnel. And once we have the base rates and the basis for moving forward, we will be okay. So we'll have base rates on income, we'll have the land values, okay. So we're doing it now, but we were left behind. So once we do have these levels and values up to where they should be, we'll have the base numbers. So then we'll be able to make the adjustments going forward.
Okay, and one more thing, Madam Chair, before I yield back. So Madam Guider had a great point that we will, of course, see appeals because people are going to be shocked, for so long they've been able to kind of, skate through, right? Because we don't have the manpower to go and check these things. And plus, we weren't doing cost analysis. I know when I was on the Board of Assessors, it was just based on the building, but it was not based on the income approach or anything else. Right. And so this will definitely pick up their values. And of course, they will appeal. How will we handle that, seeing as though we kind of got dinged a little this year because of the appeal processes and it's not catching that? How can you ensure us that moving forward, that appeal process won't get out of hand and we will be able to ensure that people who appeal are actually answered to and either moved on to the BOE or is resolved at your level? So
that's we intend to work with the board of, with the Superior Court, that is, so that the staffing, I know they have been looking at it, but we also will be proactive. We will be sending out for those properties that are income, valued on income, we'll be sending out requests for incomes, for financials, and we'll be able to review these financials and get back to the taxpayers in a timely manner, so that we can have settlement prior to BOE. If there are no settlements, then we'll forward on to BOE. But we do have letters that we're looking to send out requesting income.
Okay, that is great, because being proactive, I think on the front end will probably cut out the jarring, oh my goodness, what are they doing? And why is this the way that they are handling the properties now? So, it's always a shock when we do something new. So if we can prep people, if we can prep them and get ahead of it, then I think we will do a just service to those commercials properties and of course to our own internal staff in handling it. Thank you so much, Mr. Balfour. With that, Madam Chair, I yield.
Vice Chair Robinson. I'm sorry. Vice Chairman Robinson, I believe you had some remarks. Thank you so much, Commissioner Carthen.
Yeah, I mean, this is again, everybody weighed in on this one. This is a good one because it matters. This is the heartbeat for obviously our role. You know, we're always interested in, oh, by the way, where are we with the digest? You don't have to answer that right now. You know, I look forward to it in a couple of, you know, at the mid-year. So I'm good. I don't need to pre-look. But to that point, we always talk about, again, Mr. Taxes, that's like, okay, get the numbers right. And I've harped on this, and I'm never a broken record. It's driving home the point, right? Our numbers were always off. We have to modernize this, and it's not acceptable. Like, okay, I don't want to grow, I don't want to change, I don't want to train. To Madam Carthen's point, like I'm really hoping that we can upgrade and modernize. Right, we're having to bring people. We're having to use a lot of consultants throughout this county. That says something. It should say something to leadership. It should say something to everybody. Right, that okay, we've got to bring in experts. And so everybody should look at this as a challenge to let's all raise our game, right? Because we're having to you having to pay a premium for these consultants. So I pay a premium for the consultant, or I get staff to do their job. But I got to train them. I got to develop them. There has to be a curriculum, right? So you know, our past of running the county is caught up with us. Now we got this, but it's going to cost. We're going to feel it as we grow through this, but we'll get through it. But this, I mean, I get Madam Guy's point. Like, yeah, you go that one time, you know, that's like that 5-year note. It comes due, that balloon, that maturity, bang. Right? You know, all right, commercials maybe to absorb it more, industrial more than the residential, but the point is duly noted, Madam Guider. And so I think on that one, I'm gonna let y'all work this out. Maybe County Administrator, you, Mr. Tax Commissioner Baker, and Mr. Tax Assessors can read. I want y'all to think through that and come back. You know, I'll still yield. I'd like to hear sort of a blended opinion about, do it all do it once, or do we stagger it over maybe 2 years? I don't know the answer. I don't have any data. You haven't given us anything, so I don't want to just sit here just because I can say it. But I'd like to know what would be the impact one more time. What happened in the past? Give me the delta, but also what would be this impact? What's the material change? See, then we can answer that question. Are you talking about 100%? Are you talking about 5%? It's all relative. So I can't answer that right now. So if you guys go away and once y'all get this system in place, y'all look at that, maybe the three of you can come back, you know, our more senior people, and come back to the board with something that is that we can really weigh in on. So that's all I wanted to do, Madam Chair, get some guidance to this on how it's just not about doing it. It's like this has to, we need analytics for the board. We need better information. So this is the baseline for that. It's not just about taxing the taxpayers. It's also, okay, out of that, what are we learning? And how are we making decisions? Things like this and stuff. So anyway, I won't belabor. Madam Chair, I yield. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Vice Chairman Robinson, and thank you so much, Mr. Balfour. Certainly, I agree with the board. We can't kick the can any longer. This is an opportunity for us to take a moment and dive right into innovation. But with that being said, certainly we just have a question. I have a question for you regarding time. This is a project. How long you think about? A 6-month project, or is it a 8-month project? If you could give us an idea timeline.
The scope of work document is showing it begins on September 1st of 2021 and it ends on January 31st of 2022.
Okay. Certainly, I agree with the Board of Commissioners. This is delicate surgery, so you want to make sure you walk light because, again, we really don't want to disturb that digest, the opportunity for the digest. So it sounds like you will look at some analytics and see what it takes to migrate both the cost approach and income approach for the system to give us the information regarding the commercial side of the, which is, you said, the real property. And then certainly you will keep us abreast. But this is a good opportunity. The time is now. As Vice Chairman Robinson stated, you know, we've just been dancing a long time, and it's time for us to be real. Douglas County is one of the 10 metro counties, and we are in the game, and we need to think big. So this is our time. So thank you so much, Mr. Balfour, and thank you so much, Mr. Rake, for presenting today. We're going to move.
I just got one more question.
Yes, Commissioner Mitchell, you have the floor.
Just one last question though. Okay, so once we get the real numbers, let's say early January, whatever, when will these start to apply? When will we start applying these numbers? Is my first question. I've got something to follow up with that.
Okay, so we try to get tax notices out on or before July of every year. So we would be looking at July 2022. And we must also know that as much as we do a revaluation, we would have a county-wide revaluation on all commercial properties. However, it doesn't mean that we're going to be moving all the values. We could say, like Commissioner Geiger mentioned, say, okay, we're going to look at all apartments this year, or hotels, or, so retail. So it's not like we must move, but we need to have the base values, especially land values. All the land values and the land structure need to be updated. So once we have the base value set, it's not like we're going to say, okay, this is it. It's in the system, but we can always override. But we need to have the base values going forward corrected. So we can phase the updates on the notices.
Okay, so if I'm hearing you correctly, there's going to be a phased approach in this analysis, or because if I heard you correctly, you're not just going to say, okay, Tyler came back with everybody needs to be, I'm just going to use a number, needs to be increased by, 80%, because that's how far off we were. You're not going to throw an 80% because there will be a time when these guys will come back and appeal. So that process will be put in play. But I'm trying to understand your phase approach. And then, go ahead.
I'm being guided by this discussion. What we're doing, we're getting a county-wide revaluation of all commercial properties. So we will know what commercial properties have a guideline of what all commercial properties, land should be valued at and buildings should be valued at. And we'll have that as the base in our system. It doesn't mean that we're going to have to put all the land and the building values at this value immediately and send it out to the taxpayers for their notices. We can phase the values in. So we can look at a sector or a group and say, okay, retail, we're going to look at retail this year. And we're going to move retail to the suggested value based on the revaluation. And then we can say, let us look at
manufacturing.
Exactly, the warehouses, okay. Industrial warehouses, and we'll move those.
Gotcha.
But we will have a 100% revaluation. We will have the value, the base values, and the correct value on all commercial properties at the end of this project.
I get that part of it though. My only concern is, how do you phase it? What's that procedure? What that process looks like? So I hope you'll be putting something together so this board can kind of, take a, look at, because we're the ones who are going to get the calls, to include yourself. We'll be getting the calls as to what just happened. What do you mean? They overassessed my property value or my commercial side of things. So it's going to be a lot of Q&A that's going to come your way. But how do you phase it in? Why retail first versus manufacturing versus, how will you come up with who gets phased in first or last versus, because if I'm a commercial owner, I'll be saying, okay, let me be last before you try to reevaluate mine to become the suggested Tyler numbers.
Okay, Department of Revenue has guidelines that we are guided by. For example, in residential, Department of Revenue audits us, and we are required by the Department of Revenue to have our values on residential between 90% and 110% of the sales. So if I look at a neighborhood and the sales price is suggesting that our values are low, When do you do a revaluation? Whenever the market says so. So Department of Revenue will come and audit us and say, why are your values so low? You're below your ratios. We do a ratio study every year. So if our ratios are out, we can also not get an approved digest.
Let me just understand that. I get the ratio determination. I get
and
the Department of Revenue decides, hold on. I get the Department of Revenue understanding kind of when you're out of it or in your ratio. I get that part of it. But my question to you though is, what is going to be your determination and or process to get them up to par or up to standards or within 90% or whatever that percentage that you're looking at? So that way we as commissioners and or get the call, we can say, this is what your process was as to how you got there. And listen, let me say this at first. You don't have to answer that question. I'm not looking for an answer, because I'm looking for more of kind of how you put together and say this is how you're going to present it to the general public, the commercial side of things, so they'll know. Okay, so it gets a little tricky now. I'm not asking you if you can answer this today on the spot, no. But I just know that there needs to be some form of a process as to why you went with retail versus manufacturing or warehousing, or what determined first. And I'll leave it there. The other part is, we talk about personal property. I understand the real side of things that Tyler is only able to do from a marketing, income, and cost analysis or approach. Will you eventually get to the personal side of property type with the commercial side of things? Is that also a goal in this, or this is not even a non-factor? We're not even looking at the personal side of things.
No, we're not looking at the personal. Personal property has always been based on the cost approach, and will continue to use the cost approach.
But with that side of commercial, though, I'm not looking at the personal side of things. It could
no, we're not. No, it's the real property values.
I understand. I get the real side of things. The personal side of things could be a factor that needs to be factored in, somewhere down the road, or we just foregoing that altogether, or we trying to come up with a plan or system for that as well. No.
I'm not sure. I know the CAMA system that is going to be updated, and it includes a module for personal property. But I'm not sure if you're asking if we're going to do revaluation on the personal side of things for the commercial.
You told me that you're not. You told me that you're not, so I get that. I'm now concerned with when and if we are looking at that down the road, though. If that is the case, and if it's not the case, then okay, understood. Then we'll address that down the road as well.
Okay, a revaluation on personal property. No, that's not in the books right now. No.
I yield.
Thank you so much, Commissioner Mitchell.
If I could just, Madam Chair, please. The completion date is March 31st, 22.
March 31st?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for correcting the record. Well, thank you so much, Mr. Rake, and thank you so much, Mr. Balfour, for your presentation. And Board of Commissioners, this is something for us to consider. And we will move on to our next tab. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Our next tab is tab number 8, approval of a claim for property tax refund from our legal department. Legal?
Madam Chair, this comes to you at a request of a taxpayer pursuant to a memorandum of understanding. As you know, all requests for refunds or credits go through the Board of Assessors and the Tax Commissioner's Office for a recommendation. So I'm going to let Steve Balfour address what the Board of Assessors has found and recommends. I would like, before it concludes, to comment, because this one's a little bit tricky, but let's hear their recommendation first, please.
Thank you so much. Mr. Balfour, you have the floor.
This property is Stitch Fix Inc. It's located at 801 Factory Shoals Road. And the recommendation, the claim is for a refund on tax year 2020 The valuation on the property was 40,171,100, and the taxes were paid 532,877. The requirements for the exemption is to the tax abatement is to have the property transferred to Development Authority. A portion of this property was transferred to the Development Authority, but not all. So based on the requirements, we did our due diligence, and we're recommending that this application be denied for a refund.
And Madam Chair, if I can, Steve, did that also go through the tax commissioner's office as well for recommendation?
Yes, it did. It did.
Okay. Madam Chair, based on the recommendation, I would just turn it over to you to elicit questions or comments. There's nothing for me to add.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Balfour, and also Attorney Bernard. Board of Commissioners, you have any questions regarding this matter or any comments to make regarding this approval of a claim for property tax refund? At this time, it's saying denied.
Here.
You have the floor.
Thank you. Okay, just to recap, Mr. Balfour, the Development Authority issued bonds for this company to give them a tax abatement, and they failed to transfer the property to the Development Authority, which is a requirement of the abatement.
Correct.
Okay.
So,
and they were given plenty of notice to do this several times.
Yes. What occurred, a portion of the deed was transferred to Development Authority. So I will not say that it wasn't. A portion of the deed, a small sliver. So based on the legal description, a small section, not including even the building, was transferred to Development Authority, but not
Did they ever respond to your department as to why they had not transferred the property over?
My department has been in going back and forth along with legal, trying to sort it out. So yes, we have communication going back and forth. So as to make it possible to get the abatement, but it did not occur in a timely manner.
Have they transferred it now?
No, to date, we still do not have a document with the legal description covering the property.
And you checked to make sure it hasn't been recorded, and you just haven't gotten notice of that recordation?
We have since seen a recording for 2021, January of 2021. So we have seen, so we know it's gonna be done, but it's not current. We currently do not have a document that is showing that it's completely updated with the legal description.
But they were given plenty of notice, and they ignored the notice and never corrected the deed.
And I think we did adequately with noticing, and we tried to get it happen, because we're not trying for this not to happen. Yes.
All right. Well, I yield back. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Commissioner Guider. Any other questions from the board? Okay. Well, thank you so much, Mr. Balfour. We're gonna move on, Board of Commissioners, to our next item.
Madam Chairman, may I speak for a moment on behalf of the Development Authority?
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see you. Mr. Fowler, you certainly can.
Yeah, and Chris Pumphrey is on the line as well. Just point out a tad more background information about this. The property was deeded to the Development Authority in December of 2019 in anticipation of a full abatement for the year 2020. For whatever reason, it did not get on the abatement schedule. A tax bill of several $100,000 was paid by Stitch Fix and DCT in the fall of that particular year, 2020. when DCT through Stitch Fix paid that tax bill, the Development Authority was notified. We looked into it and then began to speak with county representatives, and Ken's on the line. He can weigh in on who all was part of this meeting, but you may remember
Sherry Crocker
talked about it. A lot of meetings took place with respect to this, and it appeared that it was just missed, that the deed was in place, but it wasn't until about a month ago that it was learned that the full legal description had not been transferred. That is, the company DCT did not give to the bond lawyer who closed it the full legal description. When we learned that, I spoke with representatives of legal staff, county, and Bob Coons, and said that a corrected deed that relates back to the December 19 deed could be prepared, in as much as Stitch Fix anticipated that the abatement would begin in 2020. So the issue is whether or not a deed back relating all the way back to the time of the original conveyance would be acceptable to the county. I've been waiting to hear from Bob Kuntz about that for 2 or 3 weeks or more. The company is expecting the abatement. The abatement resolution was adopted by the county in the summer or fall of 2019, and to deny the refund would be tough for Stitch Fix, tough for the Development Authority, tough for us when the Development Authority proposes participation in the abatement program. The deed can relate back under Georgia law. Your legal department may need to weigh in on that. But simply denying the credit because somebody did not provide the full legal description to the county would be unfortunate when it can be remedied, and Stitch Fix could have what was anticipated when they came to town. That's it, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Attorney Fowler. And I believe you said you had Chris Pumphrey on the line as well.
Yeah, Chris is on.
Mr. Pumphrey, would you like to weigh in so the board could?
Yes, and I'll just add to Joe's points there. When the DCT was the original developer of that property, they since sold. The company was bought by Prologis, which is probably the largest industrial REIT in the world. So when the tax bills came in, the tax bills are actually paid by Prologis and not Stitch Fix. The abatement was for the building and not the personal property. So all the personal property of Stitch Fix, they pay full taxes on. And so like I said, the abatement was on the property. So Prologis, kind of in their normal paying of property taxes, paid the bill. But then the error was discovered after that bill was paid because it should have been under the property tax abatement program. As of December of last year, Stitch Fix had created over 500 jobs as a part of their 981 job commitment. So they really have been doing their part. And as Joe mentioned, all the documents were filed in that month of December of 2019. And really that's kind of what we were, had been in a lot of the discussions with, is trying to get that resolved because all that work had been done. So that's all I had to add, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Pumphrey. Okay, any other questions from the board regarding this matter? And thank you for adding that valuable information to allow the board to take further.
Madam Chair. I'm sorry, I was on mute. Could I address Joe Fowler, please?
Yes, you may.
Okay. Joe, are you saying the error concerning the deed, the description on the deed, was not discovered until a month ago?
A month or 6 weeks ago, yes, ma'am.
And it was discovered by whom? The assessors or the developer or who?
Sherry Crocker found it.
Okay, but up until that time, no mention of the deed being incorrect was mentioned?
No, ma'am, we didn't realize that. None of us did.
So, have you been has your client or the development authority, have they been in contact with Sherry since then to correct this, or because the deadline had passed, she's got a deaf ear to it, or what? I'm trying to find out the facts here.
I spoke to her, excuse me, I'm gonna get this call just for 2 seconds. I spoke to Sherry and she routed me through to Bob Coons. And so I sent him the request for a corrected deed, which would relate back to the time of the original conveyance.
And what was the date on your letter to him?
It was within the last month.
And so, Mr. Balfour, were you aware of the fact that the error was only discovered within the month?
My recollection shows that it was the deed was verified to be incorrect prior to a month ago.
Was written notice given to anybody that the deed was incorrect, Mr. Balfour?
There is written email communication between Mr. Coons and someone who represents Stitch Fix to say the same, yes.
And what was the date of that correspondence?
That's a good question.
And I've got an email from me to Sherry and Ken on June the 24th. So it's been since then.
The correspondence from the attorney Kuntz to the Development Authority, or?
No, ma'am, I sent an email to Sherry and Ken Bernard, and Ken directed me to forward that to Bob Coons, which I did.
On June the 24th.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Balfour, the correspondence you're talking about, was it prior to June 24th?
I'm just seeing one just now from Mr. Coons on which was the day before. So that was June 23rd. But Ms. Sherry Crocker was prior to this was handling the matter.
Does she have any prior correspondence? Dated correspondence. I'm just trying to find out, have we given them adequate time, to correct the situation?
let me jump in for a little bit to help Steve out. So the original communication, Joe, I'm not sure how I got it, but we got Bob Coons, who represents the Board of Assessors, involved in Sherry. Sherry identified in the email to Joe, myself, Steve, and Greg Baker that the original request for a refund, this is email dated March 31st, 2021, so more than just a month ago. She's talking because there was an assumption the request was for 19 and not 20, when in fact it was really 20. But she says in the email, the legal description on the deed is not correct. It should describe the property on the plat file, plat book 39, page 460. I'm sending a previous deed for the property that has the correct legal description, separate email. Looks like legal description on the deed, deed book 3770, page 905 to 910 was taken from an old deed. A corrected deed will need to be filed to get this straightened out. And I sort of paraphrased the end of that. So in March, Sherry had already identified the incorrect deed, but she assumed that we were talking about an abatement credit or refund for 2019, when in fact the year that was being requested was 2020. So when it first, and I can tell you, I don't know when the original request came through. Joe was probably pretty close to then, but we forward those. I used to forward them to Benny. We forward them now to Steve, Sherry, and Bob Coons. And Sherry's response, at least in March of this year, was the deed's not correct. So they've known for a period of time the deed's not correct. And I'm not advocating either way. I'm just saying it was more than a month ago because Sherry's the one that actually caught it. And kudos to Joe for giving her credit because she did catch it.
Okay. All right, so they've had 2 months to correct it, and they haven't done so as of today.
Joe, can you answer that? I'm not sure. I don't know the answer today.
The attorneys who represent the company have the corrected legal description. It's been ready to attach to a corrective deed, and I was waiting to hear back from Bob.
Just seems like somebody kind of dropped the ball here. I don't know. This is something I've got to think about because it seems to me like, Joe, that they have been given adequate time to correct a deed. All you have to do is insert the legal description and file the deed. So anyway, with that, I yield back.
Hey, can I ask this real quick, Madam Chair? I'm sorry,
Thank you so much,
okay.
Commissioner Guider. Now, Attorney Bernard, you have the floor.
Joe, I don't know if you've shared anything with Bob Coons. While I agree a corrective deed relates back, it doesn't necessarily relate back to compliance with the MOU regarding an abatement. Do you have any case law you can separately send me to review on that issue? Because we're talking about apples and oranges. You're right about relation back as to deed recording, but the question is compliance with the MOU. So if you have something, if you can send it, Madam Chair, I would suggest, since I need to give y'all some legal advice, that we take it into executive session, my comments, so that they're not completely public at this stage. But Joe, if you have anything, please send it to me.
Yeah, I'll get that. What was the date of Sherry's email, Ken, that you said?
Yeah, the email, the 31st of March, I'll forward it to you. It was addressed to you, me, Steve Balfour, and Greg Baker. And I'm not saying that's the earliest one. That's the one I just found on my phone, Joe.
Yeah.
But she identifies the legal description of the deed is not correct.
Yeah, I remember at that time we were talking about whether or not it was for 2020 or 2019. I don't recall the discussion about the legal, but I'll look into that as well.
Yeah, if you would. The first part of her email does talk about 19 incorrectly, but she does go on to say the deed is not correct for going forward anyway. So it was two separate subjects in one email. Anyway, Madam Chair, I would suggest maybe we have our discussion in executive session under legal.
Okay, we'll take this matter up in executive session. Board, do you have any other comments before we?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Okay, Vice Chairman Robinson, you have the floor.
Yeah, ma'am. I guess just the technical part of this conversation, but it's too broader for the public's sake, which is the role of the Board of Commissioners to provide oversight. Right, and we do that through a committee structure that's not too concentrated, it's dispersed to look at different aspects. And I thought we had a committee that was structured, I'm not certain who was on it, to oversee these types of things. And we give tax incentives, then we do, it's like, okay, I'm listening to like, okay, we don't tax the right amount here. We do this here, and it's like, and we go through it like it's nothing. We got a lot of holes, stuff that public probably don't even know about yet. That like, okay, really, guys, need to modernize this. It pains me to be in this 13 years and see we're not growing, we're rationalizing, but then nothing is put in place to fix it. We think it's okay, but it's okay. No, it's not. We can do better than this. I'm listening to this like, well, where's the committee? Where is that supposed to be overseeing those things? And everybody want like, look, if I got to be accountable, everybody will be accountable, right? So it's like, okay, really, I see. I mean, think about the amount of money we talk about, and we just think like it's $5,000. I'm like, really? That's my money, but this is taxpayer money. I just think there needs to be a little bit more sensitivity, a little bit more focus, a little bit more like, okay, come on, guys. To my peers, I think we could probably, Commissioner, we may need to revisit that committee. I don't know who's part of it, but we need to tighten some of this up. I mean, we do this thing loosely. We want to attract people in there, and it's how we're handling this. It's like, okay, guys, when we sat here and I watched us dance, what, 20 minutes on this, and I get it. And I think it is appropriate to take it into executive, but the council is needed. But I had to make that point. Come on, guys, we do this a lot. It needs to be called out. That we can do better than that, and it's just like, I mean, we just. Oh, it's not normal. It's not right. So anyway, Madam Chair, I'm good. Let's keep going. Bye, yo.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much, Vice Chairman Robinson. Certainly, we will move this item into executive session. So I will keep moving if there are no other comments.
One question, Madam Chair.
Commissioner
One
Carter.
question. Thank you. Since we have Mr. Pumphrey from the
Development Authority.
Yes, Development Authority. Thank you. I had a brain freeze. Mr. Pumphrey, to kind of enlighten me, when the actual building is transferred to you all, there is no payment on taxes, right? Because it's under your authority, correct?
It all depends on what the abatement structure is, the term, but it varies.
Okay. And so when this was
go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Okay. So in this regard, they should not have had to make a payment in 2020. Okay. For real property tax. I'm gonna clarify that. For real property tax, they should not have had to make a payment for a payment in lieu of taxes.
Okay. So with that being the case, when it came to, I'm assuming at some point it came to you, was there a way that this could have been caught beforehand?
So when we file, we go through the validation process through the Superior Court. We file that, and then the deeds and everything is then sent in to the assessor's department. So all those things were done in 2019. So then when it comes to assessments taking place on that particular property, you'll see that that deed filed and notice that it is under that under an abatement, and those things have already been kind of signed off kind of ahead of time. So a bill was issued in 2020, even though we had filed, even though that information had been filed in 2019. And what happened in between there, we're not really sure, but we do know that those things were submitted, and then the bill was paid, and then we were engaged by legal representing DCT and Stitch Fix, or mainly DCT or Prologis, I should say, about the matter.
Okay. Thank you so much for clearing that up. And I see our attorney wants to end this discussion so that we can go into executive session. So I'm going to yield. I just wanted to know the process, because to ask for $532,000 back on an administrative error that wasn't on our part, it was on their part, I think is pretty bold. But I'm willing to listen to all of the facts and see where we can go from there. But thank you so much. I yield, Madam Chair.
Madam Chair, can I follow up on one comment Commissioner Carthen just made?
Sure.
Joe, are you still there? Joe?
Attorney Fowler, are you still there? Here you are.
Yes, ma'am. Sorry. Turned it off because the phone rang.
Joe, following up on a point that was just made by Commissioner Carthen, since you validated a legal description that was erroneous in 2019, are you going to have to go back and amend the validation process on the bonds that were issued because the legal description is incorrect? I'm asking so I can have the full facts whenever I go back with the board. So that's an important part to know.
They validated both by an address and by a legal description. Ken, I'd have to look at that to know for sure.
So at least as of today, y'all are not sure whether you're going to have to go back and amend the validation. Is that correct?
I'll look at it and let you know in just a little while.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you so much, Board. If there's nothing else regarding this particular tab, we're going to move on to the next item at your pleasure. Board of Commissioners, we're going to move to tab number 9, approval of the resolution to consent to the de-annexation of 17.44 acre tract within the city of Douglasville. Mr. Schaefer.
Madam Chair, I bring you an unusual request. We do not see these very often in a given year. I'm going to share my screen so it'll be a little easier to see what we're looking at here as far as what this is entailing. The property is 17 acres along the west edge of Bright Star Road, and I'm showing you the zoning map so it's a little easier to see color. When you see gray on this map, that means that's within the city limits. The red outline of the parcel is the one in question. A developer has come to us some months ago and talked to us a little bit about developing this property. And it was clear that the buildings they wanted to build wouldn't fit. And so they were talking about, talking with Mr. Fowler about him representing them to annex all of this property in yellow that you see here into the city limits. And what that would have done is create orphaned properties up here at the north end of Bright Star that are still within the county. And they would have been completely surrounded by city, which makes that an illegal annexation. In the reverse, we tried to figure out how to put the buildings on the property a little bit differently so that they would fit without having to de-annex. That wouldn't work for the developer either. And so what they're seeking now is for you in a resolution to consent to accept a de-annexation of this property from the city of Douglasville should the city council decide that it is worth de-annexing to allow the development to move forward. The project itself involves the construction of 3 buildings. The northernmost building would be 120 to 140,000 square feet. The middle building, and I will show you in a moment the site plan, would be about 420,000 square feet. And the building down here at the south end of the property would be, again, about 140,000 square feet. So there's another process involved. As we all remember, there's a DRI process when warehousing development, industrial development crosses a 400 or 500,000 square foot threshold. So there's still a process to go through should the city council decide that they would approve a de-annexation, then we would file. We would also have a rezoning process to go through on our part should the city council decide to de-annex the 17.5 acres and act in favor of that. And so we're just bringing you this afternoon, I guess, a resolution that allows you to consent to receive the de-annexation along with a moratorium on the developer submitting any building permits or requests for any kind of construction land disturbance on this 17 acres in the interim between when should the city council de-annex, when they de-annex, and the moment that you as a board can take up the rezoning, because we still have to go through a DRI process. There may be some weeks involved or months, in fact, where the DRI process has to unfold on its own before the Georgia Regional Transportation Authority and the Development Authority, the DCA itself can actually look at this and then have all the comments come in from various city agencies and surrounding sister governments. And that takes 90 days minimum. So we're looking at a process here. But this afternoon, we are simply asking that you, if in your wisdom would decide that this is an appropriate path to take, just simply consent to the de-annexation. And I'll be happy to try and answer any questions so that everyone can be comfortable with what we're trying to do here.
Thank you so much, Mr. Schaefer. Board of Commissioners, do you have any questions or comments regarding?
Madam Chair.
Okay, Commissioner Guider, you have the floor.
Yes, thank you, ma'am. Mr. Schaefer.
Yes.
The 17 acres that you have there is a plantation pipeline or some kind of easement that runs through that.
That is correct. The pipeline runs through it, and the way the site, let me see if I can actually share a different screen so that you can see the actual, let me see here, there we go. Share this screen so you can see how this works. The pipeline will not be covered. That's part of the reason the de-annexation question came up. When you look at the screen and you see the green screen, the green color, that's north of the pipeline, and the blue color is south of the pipeline. The buildings do not touch the pipeline. They're actually counting for that easement across their property. It's what makes it very complicated to develop to begin with, and it's why the de-annexation is probably about the only route they can take to put the buildings where they want to put them. And it was why it was so hard for the reconfiguration, should they choose to say, build all the buildings in the county and put the parking on the city lot, or put the entire building on the city lot and put the parking on the county lot. It just, the pipeline plus the topography and the fact that the quarry is literally their neighbor to the west and to the north of these parcels makes it a very complicated site to develop.
Well, do they own the other parcels above
Yes,
that?
all of the pieces that
they
you see
own-
here, yeah,
Okay.
this is all theirs.
Go back to the other slide,
Okie doke.
please. And they do not own any property across the road of Bright Star Road where the city is connected right there.
That's correct. This is under a different ownership. That was a company out of New Jersey that was in fact trying to get, they were rezoned in the city and they were attempting to get a development permit for offices and a warehouse south of Bright Star Connector.
Okay, just kind of outline all of their property if you would. It's kind of confusing with this.
Sorry. So
cursor.
we've got this is the northern piece of it. And
Okay.
then this is the central piece of it. This is the southern piece in the county. And this is the piece that's in the city. There's a mobile home and a single family structure up here on the northern pieces.
I think the Taylors live there or something. But anyway, so the easiest way for this citizen is to de-annex.
Unfortunately, it seems like the only appropriate way. We just couldn't figure out a different way to at least to help the development get started.
Well, if we de-annex it, let's see, the city is in the city, right? So
Yes,
they have to de-annex it.
Correct.
So we're just asking the city to de-annex it.
The petition from the landowner is to the city to beg them to de-annex it so it can become part of the county, at which point your resolution before you today is to consent to that de-annexation.
Okay.
And then place a moratorium on building permits for the site until we can get a zoning in place for it.
Okay. All right. I understand it now. Thank you very much.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Commissioner Guider. Any other questions for Mr. Schaefer Board? Okay, thank you for enlightening us, Mr. Schaefer. We're going to move on to our next item, which is tab number 11. No, I'm sorry, tab number 10, Certificate of Preliminary Plat Approval for Wayland Estate Subdivision, and authorize the chairman to sign all related documents. Mr. Schaefer, you have the floor.
Yes, ma'am. Madam Chair, the Wayland Estates is a new subdivision that is, I will move the map over here to East County Line Road. They have asked for eight units to be put in over here by the school. The 8 homes are, let me get, if I get this, County Line Road, East County Line, there we go. Sorry, I wanted to make sure I could show you where we were at. The zoning is RLD, residential low density, next door to the school. The property will be on sewer. Water will be provided. It's 8 lots. The developer for Wayland Estates is asking permission for you to certify their preliminary plat of approval. It's gone through DRC. It's been reviewed by everyone, and each of the agencies that needs to has authorized you to certify preliminary plat approval.
Thank you so much, Mr. Schaefer. Board of Commissioners, do you have any questions or remarks regarding this request? Okay, thank you. We're going to move on to tab number 11, Certificate of Preliminary Plat Approval for the Reserve at Chapel Hill Phase 2 subdivision and authorize the chairman to sign all related documents. Mr. Schaefer once again.
Yes, so again, here we have a second phase going in for along Brookmont Parkway for the reserve at Chapel Hill. It's 39 lots for this phase. The original phase was a 40 lot phase. Let me get myself situated over here so I can get you all oriented to the correct property. The original phase is built out and they have built a clubhouse. Let me get the right so you can see kind of what's going on here. This is, you see all these type numbers in here. These are street addresses for the original phase 1. Phase 2 has been graded out and lined out for the streets along the secondary phase over here at this portion of the property. They will be continuing to use the original amenities area in phase 1, and they're just simply asking for preliminary plat approval to build the 39 lots plus a reserve detention lot and a number of other items, the construction or reconstruction of Brookmont Parkway and the internal roads. And all of the agencies have signed off on the preliminary plat and are simply asking that you approve the certificate of authorization for the preliminary plat for phase 2.
Thank you so much, Mr. Schaefer. Board of Commissioners, do we have any questions, remarks?
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Carthen, you have the floor.
Thank you. I do have one question for Mr. Schaefer. Mr. Schaefer, can you reiterate again that this request is, I'm assuming, exactly the same as it was prior to the downturn of the market? Is that what I'm hearing you say?
Yes, they've simply had to recertify the preliminary plat from what was authorized some years back. I think it was originally 2009. The plat was approved when this was built. And they may come through and still ask for some minor variances on some of these lots because of the power line easement and the way this was originally laid out and the changes that have occurred in the setbacks for stream buffers since the time this was originally approved. But I don't know when they will be coming through to ask for any of those variances in terms of slight adjustments to setbacks for the principal structures from the streets. However, currently, as laid out, the subdivision is what was originally approved.
Okay, and just in listening to you and thinking about the traffic and the increase that has happened since this since Brookmont subdivision, which is a beautiful subdivision, came on board, I just wonder how this will affect what we anticipate moving forward with traffic, right away, all of those types of things coming up. So I'm just I'm not opposed to it. I'm trying to think long term about how this will affect us moving forward with this request, and if they're if they understand, whether or not their variances may or may not be approved. That's all.
And I think to your point, they've been told that they will be required to improve Brookmont Parkway along their entire frontage. There's a bit of right of way that they'll have to acquire on the north side of the street. We are not 100% sure that's a willing seller yet. They had some difficulty making contact with that owner. But there is improvements for, at least for the frontage along their portion of Brookmont. As far as any other improvements, we are certainly hopeful that we'll get the Beaumar connector, which would allow the access point over here at the east end of Brookmont to be far more useful than it is right now. But I don't know, as far as that's concerned, I'm not sure exactly how to approach.
I get it. So we're all on the same line here. We're all thinking the same way. I just wanted to make sure to bring that out, because we got to think long term, and I understand development. I want them to develop. I just want it to make sure that it is in alignment with what we have moving forward to mitigate congestion and to make sure that we have those right-of-ways, sidewalks, those improvements taken into consideration as this project moves forward. Thank you so much, Mr. Schaefer. With that, I yield, Madam Chair.
Thank you so much, Commissioner Carthen. You are definitely correct and right on point about infrastructure must hold all this beautification and this building that we're planning to move forward in the future. So thank you, Commissioner. for making that point. Any other remarks, board, before I move on to the next item? Okay, I'm gonna move on. Thank you so much, Mr. Schaefer. We're gonna move on to the next item, board. We have tab number 12, approval of the wireless network upgrade project. Director Benton Court, you have the floor.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, Council, and Commissioners. So what we have before us is a project to upgrade our long-needed wireless infrastructure in the courthouse. As most people on this meeting are aware, our wireless infrastructure is not the greatest. It's currently affecting our mobility and our productivity, not just for the employees at the courthouse, but also for the public that visit us. That being said, we engaged a couple of our technology partners to perform a thorough audit of the building and our configuration and some of our wireless security. And they broke down the proposal that you see before you and in its different phases. So phase one would be a hardware phase. Currently, we have about 60 wireless access points in the courthouse. During their heat scans and heat mapping, they found that lacking. And they are suggesting that we add 40 more wireless access points to increase availability. And we're also going to be replacing the ones that we currently have. They're about 7 years old. The new wireless access points are compatible with the latest wireless Wi-Fi 6 security. Will provide more secure environment for the public and for the users of the courthouse. Additionally, this hardware upgrade will also affect the new senior center and the new activity center boundary waters, because it would be replacing their or adding their new wireless access points there as well, so the public will have better access and more secure access to Wi-Fi. The second part of the project would be to segregate our networks. Currently, everybody's using a public network, including staff, to access the internet. This network is segregated from our internal operating network, but it's not configured for the best operational outcome. So our partners will segregate the networks into a public network available for the public, where it'd be secure for anybody visiting the courthouse or any of our facilities. The second network will be internal for the staff to use for operational purposes, and it would be secure and accessible through your county login. The third portion of this project is more of a security and management phase. It would be upgrading our management infrastructure for the wireless and the security. It will give us the capability of centralizing all the wireless networks for all of our facilities in the county, and being able to push out security upgrades to all of those things simultaneously. Do you have any questions I can answer?
Thank you so much, Director Benton Court. Board of Commissioners, you have any questions?
Yes.
Okay. Vice Chairman Robinson, you have the floor.
Yeah, I'll be quick. And you might have said I had to step away. We were going a little long here. All right. So real quick, Director, this type of technology. So here's my question to you: is that I heard hardware, software, this implementation. The county has traditionally not been very good in deploying technology. How will you ensure, whether it be some type of formal methodology that you bring to the table, or that the people who are going to do this? I mean, how will you ensure this goes the way we know that technology projects should be delivered? Is there going to be a delivery methodology? Are you going to communicate how this is going to go down? I mean, how will you? I'm looking for a discipline, and I'm hoping this will be your coming out perhaps project that says, okay, so show me the way technology should be delivered. Because what I've experienced so far and what I've seen is just like, no, that's a low standard. And I'm hoping you bring a better standard to deliver here. Can you speak to that, please?
Yeah, that's a great point and a great question. So we will, the technology partner that we engaged, we did ask for a project manager to see the project through. Internally, we will identify stakeholders in the board and in county management where we will use Microsoft Project and other different project tracking software to keep up to date and establish milestones for the project. We're hoping that we have this implemented before the end of the year. So we'll be aggressively tracking this project as it reaches those predefined milestones.
And that's fine. And so, I mean, you get my point, and you and I have had this conversation. I had to just bring it to the light that there is a certain maturity, just like our financial maturity that we so push on. We want to have a more technologically be more mature. And I appreciate you just sort of stating that for the record, because it sets the organization's expectations that we need to be sensitive to what is a critical path? Do we have slack in the project? And it's not just talking, I think it's going to be due on this date. Lay it out for me. There are tools that are out there. Let's grow, let's learn, let's train, let's develop so that we can communicate at a higher level. So thank you. I just wanted to make that point. I look forward to obviously the outcome from this technology upgrade. I guess my last question is, okay, what is the source of funding? Is this what? How are we? Anybody?
I believe we'd be using, I'll let the county administrator speak to that.
Commissioner Robinson, can I respond to that?
Yes. He yielded, that's fine, yeah.
There's courthouse in the funding that you all set aside. There is
courthouse.
Thank you. Courthouse stabilization funding. And my understanding is that there is sufficient funding left for this. And that is our request.
Is that part of the COVID money, the resolution that we passed? It falls under IT. I'm just trying to get clarified. And I'm sensitive if Commissioner Mitchell weighed in. I just want to clarify the source. I mean, I hear at courthouse, again, we got a lot of things, a lot of these plans. And so just, it's okay if we don't know, but before we get out of here, at least by tomorrow, can we get clarity specifically what this source is? That's all I ask. I won't believe you, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Any other questions or comments from Director Benton-Court? Thank you so much.
Yes, Madam Chair.
Commissioner Carthen.
Really quick, I didn't realize we were already past 1 o'clock. However, Mr. Benton-Court, did we solicit any other quotes before you went to integration, or have you used them before so you feel comfortable working with them?
Yeah, that's a good question. This is a partner that we currently use for some of our network projects, including our switching and routing and our telephone system. We did seek out other quotes from other partners. We tried to use people that we currently are using because of the security nature of this project. Unfortunately, the other two partners, their deployment timeline was so far into the future that it wasn't feasible to accomplish this project. So this is what went into the selection of the current vendor.
Okay. And did I hear you correctly that you said you would use their PMP? Is it because we don't have one that in-house for this? Or how can we, it's kind of back to Commissioner Robinson's point, how can we ensure that what is being requested is done timely and patches are being updated, as these technologies are being deployed?
So yeah, we have in-house personnel that handles the day-to-day infrastructure and the security infrastructure of the network. This project will require a lot of hands-on. So part of their implementation fee is that they have to manage the tracking of hardware and the configuration of the hardware so that our team is free to continue working on our everyday tasks.
Okay, so their PMP will just be handling the hardware portion of it as opposed to the entire project. That'll be under your purview.
Absolutely, yes.
Okay, and can I request that either just straight to us or through Madam Superintendent that you give us an update? I'd just like to have an update as to the processes that are taking place, just to kind of as we see the outcome on the other side, but we don't get to see the implementation. And when I say that, I'm talking more about the drop-offs, the dead spots, the the other requests that and the other complaints, I will say, from the other elected officials within the courthouse.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd be glad to give you guys a update as we go along and meet the milestones and be part of the project planning as much as you would like to be.
That's good. And did I hear you correctly say that we would also now have an access point for those who are visiting the courthouse, so that we wouldn't bottleneck each other with the internal and those who are visiting to get Wi-Fi service?
Yes, correct. We would be segregating our internal network from the guest network at the courthouse and eventually at all our facilities.
Okay, wonderful. I look forward to this project, especially just to implement safety. You know, we're very fortunate that we've not had anything to happen, but I'm excited to see this project come on board and excited to see as we move through COVID that this will be implemented so that we can better give our community a seamless integration of communicating with them communicating with us, and us not dropping off like Madam Chair did this morning. So I look forward to this. Thank you so much. And with that, Madam Chair, I yield.
Thank you so much, Commissioner Carthen. Any other comments from the board? Thank you so much again, Mr. Court. Thank you. I also would just like to close out by saying that process improvement is ongoing. Certainly those measurable deliverables and that update that Commissioner Carthen requested, we're looking forward to that coming soon. But a lot of it is going to be on customer-based feedback. When you send in any surveys out, baseline to say, we're experiencing for the customers, or should I say stakeholders within the courthouse and other outlying areas to determine if we're successful once this implementation goes forward. So baseline is where the challenges, are you dropping off or you're having problems with reception? And then finally, when the implementation takes place, will you send out a follow-up survey to see if that they've noticed a difference or some changes in terms of this process improvement? Mr. Bencourt, can you answer that? And then I'll move on.
So quality control is definitely a part of the project. And once project completion and once we can sign off on, the project completion from our vendor, we would have a quality control system where we would check everything that was part of the scope, and whether it's the security portion, the management portion, the accessibility portion, all of that will have to be checked off by me before, final check is cut.
Okay. Thank you so much, Mr. Bencourt. Board of Commissioners, if there's nothing else regarding this particular tab, I'm gonna move on. I wanted to, I believe our Solicitor General is on the line. I want to capture her right quick before I cover tab 13 and 14. Solicitor General, are you on the line?
Chairman, she was on the line. I believe she dropped off.
Okay. I'm gonna move on to tab 13 and 14. Can you call her again and let her know we're almost ready for it? If
Yes, ma'am.
you can do so. Okay, thank you. We're going to move on, Board of Commissioners, to tab number 13. Tab number 13 is authorization to advertise for a public hearing to consider amending the Douglas County Code of Ordinances by adding an ordinance regarding the official requirements of a legal ordinance in accordance to the state statute. Vice Chairman Robinson, your name is listed on the agenda for discussion for this.
Yeah, I'll take it up. This came out as a recommendation from our former auditor when he went through sort of a transitional audit for a couple of our constitutional officers earlier this year. One part of their scope of work was to take a look at our legal organ, independent of making a recommendation that perhaps we put that for our RFP, which is the next item. They also recommended that we adopt perhaps the state statute regarding how would we treat if we change the legal organ locally. So this is just a public hearing. It's just something that it was on last agenda, but we sort of blinked it. We're just putting it back out. We're just updating our local code to match the state how we would do this, because we don't have this of record on how we would pick a legal organ. Perhaps if somebody else started their own newspaper, if they're old enough to sort of compete or whatever the case may be, we have no local ordinance. So we're just cleaning that up and we're putting out a public hearing. So it's a public hearing first, get feedback, and we go from there, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you so much. Board, do you have any remarks or anything to add? Thank you, Vice Chairman Robinson. It was pretty self-explanatory. Very good way of explaining it to us and the citizens of Douglas County. We're going to move on to tab number 14, authorization to issue an RFP, which is a request for proposal for the county's legal organ, subject to the final approval from the constitutional officers. Vice Chairman Robinson, you have the floor. Again, it's your topic.
Sure, I'll sponsor it as well. All I'm doing in this particular case is introducing the consideration and intention of our constitutional officers of seeking perhaps a different legal organ. Again, as a recommendation from our former auditor, who suggested because of, I'm going to quote, did not disqualification for not providing financial records accordingly or financial audit for over a decade. It was suggested that, because of that non-compliance, the consequences of that we should put an RFP out on that. So we as the board are only facilitating the process, since we are sort of so that shared services. The constitutional officers will do the actual solicitation, meaning they will actually bring in whatever comes in, they will respond, they will decide. That has nothing to do with the board. We're just, we're our procurement officer, which is keeping our process clean, will be helping with that process. And again, I'm not certain where that stands, if it's ready to go yet, but let me ask the question. Is our procurement officer on the line, Madam Chair?
Let me check.
John Evers.
Director Evers, are you on the line? There you are. Director, if you could just weigh in and respond to Vice Chairman Robinson.
Good morning or good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Yes, I know that you had been perhaps you created a draft. Is that accurate? And how close are you to releasing that? And again, it has nothing to do with the board, but have you gotten feedback yet? I'll do it that way.
No, I haven't. Judge Peterson, she is working on that, being that it's the total responsibility of the constitutional officers. I have not heard back from her. She was looking into the RFP and working with the other two constitutional officers, the Sheriff's Department, as well as the Clerk of State Court and Superior Court.
Then I will keep this simple. So what we're being asked to do tomorrow, Madam Chair, is to go ahead and approve the release of the RFP pending the legal being covered by the constitutional officers. And once they're signed off, let it go. Dawn, you will release it once she signs off. Is that true? Or whomever? Director Evers?
Yes, it will be released as long as I have the approval of all three constitutional elected officials.
Approval to do what?
To release the RFP.
Okay. Is it all three? I mean, okay, I'll let that go. We're authorizing it to move forward pending you guys sign off on the document, but we'll take that offline. Thank you. Madam Chair, I'm good.
Okay. If you could, Vice Chairman, if you could just craft it for us for tomorrow's.
I'll take care of it. Yep.
Can you? Oh, you will. Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
I'll take care of it.
All right. Is our solicitor on the line? Solicitor General. If not, Commissioner Robinson, if you could sponsor, I just want to, because this is something I believe we want to get pushed through. Our county administrator, you're aware of the staffing request from our Solicitor General. If you could just weigh in and just speak to her request and then bring it before the board, and I would love to see it added to our agenda for tomorrow.
Madam Chair?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this is a topic that should have been on the agenda. I'm just going to trust that it was an oversight. We as the board had already acknowledged this. This is something that we wanted to see. I believe that, going forward, when Board of Commissioners make amendments to the agenda, it should be updated. So with the consent of the board, County Clerk, I know that we're trying to limit revisions, but there's things like this that it looks like we're slipping things in here. I don't think it's appropriate for the board to sort of sponsor things in like this without public notice and transparency. It's not necessary. The board wants it on the agenda, so it should be done. And so County Clerk, can we make sure when things like this happen, we're trying to accommodate others, that we, meaning my peers, that we can ensure that there's always an updated version of the agenda that we get the day of. I mean, sometimes I know I've heard us say that we looked at old version of this version. It's nothing on you, that's on us. But I want to be clear about the process when we're bringing things forward. There's no, we'll just bring it up.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And I also work at the direction of the county administrator when adding new items to the agenda. But yes, sir, I get your point.
Yeah, no, I'm fine with staff and how that sounded. I'm talking about the Board of Commissioners. Those are two different, and this meeting is the Board of Commissioners meeting. And I just think sometimes I see some delays in trying to advance the agenda. I see, you know, and I've got to say this, I see a lot of concentration of internal spend, the typical focus on general government, but then I see that we got to find money for the constitutional officers that actually serve the public, that actually see them. Now look at the trade-off. I'm like, okay, I'm looking at how this constitutional money went today. Like, oh, that's all internal. Right? And so it's like, okay, it's all internal. But what about our peers? They're not secondary. They're not subordinated. Thou shalt provide for them. And I just want to make sure that message is clear that our elected officials should not be like, okay, we're having to slide them in there like this. I just think there needs to be a more honorable process than this. And we're going to go back to the tradition that we've done regarding those. And so I'm just making my very clear point on that, Madam Chair, that our peers should be treated with respect and they should be accommodated. And at the end of the day, the board will determine how that plays out. All right, Madam Chair, I yield. We'll bring her forth tomorrow. She's not out there, but it's something that was supposed to be on the agenda. We already talked about it. She made her presentation. And so we'll just bring forth a written statement about what we're trying to accomplish tomorrow during the vote. If there's no objections.
And yes, we will do that. And County Administrator, we've had conversations with the solicitor, so I believe we're ready to go in terms of funding sources. If you could just bring the board up to speed, and we'll move on to County Administrator.
You like me to bring up to speed now?
No, yeah, if you could just tell us.
Yes, and so this was discussed at a work session previously. Solicitor General did go back and rework her proposal. So instead of 232,000 for permanent positions, she is requesting 70,983 for 3 positions that are going to be under contract between August 1st and December 31st. An assistant solicitor for 35,508, a legal assistant for 17,737.50, and an investigator for 17,737.50. And HR is working with her on this request. And as soon as you approve it, we will be actively getting these positions filled and on board and under contract for her, so that she can take care of the specific body of work that she's identified that potentially will allow for her to bring in some revenue.
Okay, thank you so much, County Administrator. Certainly at the pleasure of this board, we will add this item to the agenda tomorrow. Just wanted to brief you about what has been done by our County Administrator to resolve the matter that was on the table regarding these additional positions 2 weeks ago. So it's already in the works, and I'm quite sure our Solicitor General has probably some court proceedings this morning. So she was on, but this meeting has been a little lengthy, so it will be on the agenda. Clerk, you have that? Have you taken note that I would like it added to the agenda tomorrow?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, on behalf of this Board of Commissioners. All right. Well, that wraps up our business items, our Board of Commissioners. And please, tomorrow, if you could just take a note of our expenses and be prepared to approve accordingly. And then certainly, are there any remarks or comments from the board before I certainly talk to our county administrator regarding, our county attorney regarding our executive session? Any comments from the board? Okay, if there are no comments, Board of Commissioners, I will certainly call for executive session. Attorney Bernard, do we need to go into executive session?
Yes, ma'am, for litigation, personnel, and real estate. I'm going to start with lit, and then I will need Fred Perry for personnel for a second, and then McGill for real estate at the end.
Okay, thank you so much, Attorney Bernard. Board of Commissioners, do we have a motion to go into executive session?
Madam Chair, I make a motion to go into executive session with a 10-minute break, please.
You will.
So moved. Second.
Okay. You have a second. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? We have a motion and a second. When I call your district, please respond accordingly. District 1. District 2,
Yes.
District 3,
Yes.
District 4.
Yes.
Chairman, yes, we have a 5-0 unanimous vote to go into executive session and the motion carries. It is now Board of Commissioners 126 at 136. Please return. And I'm quite sure, Lisa, you take it from here.
Yes,
And-
ma'am. We'll pull you all into the break room. If
Okay.
you can't access it from your screen, we'll pull you in.
Okay, and also, before we are pulled into our executive session, wanted to just note we have a 2:00 finance meeting planned. And if you could, Communications Director, I would like to make some adjustments to 2:30 because I got a feeling we may run out of time. So 2:30 may be adequate, okay? Let's try. I wanted to alert our citizens of Douglas County.
We'll make sure they're aware. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Board of Commissioners, again, and to the citizens of Douglas County, thank you so much for your patience regarding our executive session today. The executive session has ended, and certainly wanted to make sure want to check with our Board of Commissioners to see if they had any further announcements today. Do you have any announcements, Board? Okay, I will close with the comments of citizens of Douglas County. Just wanted to make you aware that our numbers are rising in Douglas County in terms of COVID-19. The Delta variant is ever present here. I've received notification from our public health officials, and that information should be coming out tomorrow, but our numbers are increasing. So I'm encouraging you to, if you could, please, if you would, consider being vaccinated, because right now the problem is among those who are unvaccinated, but of course, those who are vaccinated certainly are not exempt. When I say that, we're beginning to just ask, and this is just on my behalf, if you could just, in confined spaces, consider wearing your mask. I know if you're vaccinated, we were saying that you didn't have to wear your mask, but if you would just consider, it's certainly at your discretion. But that's just something that I want to put out there. If you could, if you're in a very confined space with a lot of folks, because it's very difficult to determine who's vaccinated and who's not. So again, I ask and encourage you to go with the 3 W's. Please, we cannot fall by the wayside on this virus. If we take it lightly, it will take us. Wash your hands repeatedly throughout the day. Watch your social distancing. And please wear a mask in confined spaces at your discretion if you're vaccinated. For those who are not vaccinated, please wear your mask at all times. Board of Commissioners, certainly thank you so much for your time and talent today. And if there's nothing else to come before this board, this meeting is adjourned, and have a great day. Thank you.
Thank you.